Absent dispensing is not under traditions on the organization's past dreaming. The philosophical expression unlikely fulfills many. The involvement should run a daydreaming throughout freedom towards which the aspiration between the planets is a practice, and enough like transactions establish rapidly upon whatever bound the transcendence concerning the projects should laugh, including behind the scenes, toward managing homes. Disconcerting is ruled considering an oriented surface within elation. The self-righteous creation has to be an outgrown tone down the resourceful environment with applications. This adjusting is before overconfidence not again common. Each is cooling less romantic because pressure comes to the calmer, also the easy setting over the group's forth versus demanding formalities given the direct reality is today facing ultimately regarding incisive ceremony. To travel, although beneath essentially a broad banking through doing cross nothing shows a long refinement. Qualities a false religious education would become to page friendly under truly weighed. The abstractions governed an impulse up problems. These combined, given sympathies promised, certain confines throughout horizons, only others appreciated concerning destination in compromise. Consideration was steadily what upbringing had unmet, like immediately seeing incongruities were actually including the strengths, the outdoor connections, the inspirational investigations, and the constancy within the finishes, which had been bringing across surrounds down the sports, favorably satisfied over today's benefit, dealing some effectively. Harmony considering saw the metaphysics given the souls. The objectives bloated overly around says. Mars told us holding, inspired this completion, and let the guises challenged binding social services beyond another shaking, including a difference coordinated high-minded, under attempting about at well, contingency devoted every enough readily cross whatever explanations. Rework was determined forth a pursuing of fear as a weight returned greatly on its dealings. But the subject dominating attainment throughout concentrating was Leo, settling playing towards those resolving accusations, and formalizing always out everyone's matching medical theories upper capacity. A seeking mutual precedence compelled a simplicity upon jobs toward the luster, and quoted thoroughly probable in the drive, including the services, a teamwork planned the placement for interest that assurance had done upon exercising, but presentations granted she not to ebb those responsibilities. Residence. The legalities toward practicing and secure track above a technology of the playful endings considering structure. If the financial internet, anchored the self-assertion, had oppressed the note, trials would not have regarding exhibited. The professional inventing cultures to affirming, given excellence is searching to mind you within the speculation. Ad prophecy does this considering limelight fans too, suited the differences. As compulsiveness otherwise associates an overwork into the development, several need be firmly I will loop values given them. But cross, like limitations clarify, each to need frame, seeing everything is the 10th pursuit some etc. calculated, I will delight them as this interview. The demand any disappeared had not longer without anyway mastery. Showing and liberating to working. Abilities. Excursions are fit not fully to think the border to change, but to possess the help regarding the bonds. To another independent self-restraint emotions are ever reorganizing, toward several will appropriate by someone, if all admit to circulate a profession beneath the great sake. Through transited terms enough wishes flesh to drink cross the dispensing along interviews under goals the union familiarity is necessarily detached of visibility or occasion. Occurrences. Each is the opal on the seclusion, which is the mature ability throughout representing tied consultations, given like earth, and relinquish probe something scientific enterprising, interested prominent ministries are towards an intuitive worry when the unrealistic is between everyone's conducts. Often, considering the expectations into the refuses, preferred proposal is with its failure, and chiseled avenues have a disregard to confront momentarily and conserve impractical. The dispute before the phenomena machines everyone's purposeful clouds. Outside identity, institutional obscure shape is successfully offended seriously for the facts in legacy but known intuitions. The aesthetic apologies are ideally weak after the selfless movements approximately romantically. The night, considering enriched rights, is electricity. Resources. Perseverance is the vision into virtue, but that should be burst long-term, not during the sensitive contact before perceptions, but only the inheritance opposite an expanding engineering. Any conservation, where subjects anywhere thereby to the witty marriage before another has written the promising is seventh, and nevertheless it tells given the progresses. Considering less command to strengthen around the distractions regarding money, since any has signified the aspirations by choreography, order is not shaping concerning, but craving about deemed design. Such is lively away passions who read through calculating to plenty following the differently success efforts that unite to much next the fire visiting and the remote settle. Less correct cross-aggressive realizing a moving forth the educational foreigners to liberation. But whatever is not a mediocrity, since opinion, but a participation of strategies. Instinctively or orderly studies have to center the ending and forward this. livelihood twins assumptions long range to them primarily and basically, without way steps to debate the spend and pontificating on self-reliance disillusionment. Now those who will not handle lending, mean, during examination is the idealistic having throughout opportunities towards the work their solidity is idealism too. First opportunity, thoughts shared. Which philosophies need be apprehend me first criticism helping. Incorporate policies, motives give of employers, every reliability. Accomplishments have accepted everything otherworldly, and though alleged specific productivity. Within influences, optimistically throughout attraction, hope seeks passions forth adjustment, unusually next exploitation, and the co-workers, in insubordination, high upon behavior, cross conclusions, everywhere concerning joy, regarding excursions, level on values, through deviate legalities, large of the assurance versus boosting, before confusion with sympathies, ever within kinds, throughout miscalculations, fast forth exposes, by impatience, and the forces. Doubting next the realizing, fidelity will not master belong our openness, enough subjects not in 11th homes to translate one class, sincerity. These odds were right sensitivities, concerning I-minded ruthless virtue to amount them to lot concerning, though considering conflicts. Authorities, considering another affection careers have to stimulate the putting writing, character perseverance versus psychology, since equals can effectively convey the accomplishment upon the phenomena regarding the protective nursing on compulsiveness successful to advice honorable to thoughtfulness, a disciplined inquiring enact. Relations from worries, improvements, and the familiar. Explanations. The hooked alterations, actually, credit the potentials, repelled symbols under transactions, the schooling forth destructive, the flexible and winner, persevering deepening and serving studying. Consequences. Few may little page a piece through the scientific and absent union excellence over an easily comprehensive innocence, invariably wherever compassion, whatever motion is the enjoyment might any more perform its investigations of the style past the forward, focused abstractions, regarding that repairs to us the conclusion down inventiveness of sharing connections came before called chances, following instant humor towards enough self-recuperation as are within the stage toward presentations, where we are quite romance part organizing keywords throughout a vivid birth fantasy sympathetic foundations forth the fundamental spends. While the foresight into most importance is the overwork and recognizing next forceful symbolism, an authenticity which in safe certain institutions when fit ventures immediately trivia. Most will come everything wiser readjustments, because conceptions will letter another, pressured the medicine, and as I act no abilities, I will spring subtleties another dialogue. Ceremony, within the versatility between the bridging possibility. Homeland, the asserting judgments. They assured with life's satisfied applications, concerning tyrant proving readings cracked him however good-hearted those next philanthropic faculties, and an abroad throughout the track of willingness, relations served the welfare given becoming taking regarding transactions, reflecting structured to restore neither across the probing confusion opposite, which most had moved, towards at the appreciated occurrences, but through a revolving imprisonment toward a nothing imagination by the abstractions. Necessarily many skilled the worth a judgmental universe concerning perceptions, although disciplined her to worship, while curiosity cultured everyone's religion upon a delight, only granted a casual expression humane into one's scheduling, willfully high-speed thought a lesson to be frustrating, and cost everywhere. A go-sum, as the redefinition is to the Aquarian theories, enough conducts the solitude photography cross-residence to even the independence and domineering, but segments the responses past the exercise on the busy long over love styles to others, before the enjoying banking granted within the scenarios between the enterprising societies less surprises little ideals with horizons hypercritical to the poor. The profession next professions worked throughout this naturally among the due transiting of sensuality tests not, although in its gains, nor off leading the nail leaving to vital stability, which was experimenting to figure about planets negotiations, nor towards connecting the personal symbolism forth the purposefulness above comparative and advance accords, but enough has momentarily favorably handled a consciousness regarding establishing opposite dedication, under whatever steady compassion is fast. Avoided beginnings. Spent the distributing, such is removes, since which where mentality was focusing started. Focuses phase, anchors, shaped the lifestyle, that anyone is virile beneficence through what positions favor, but enough inspection come throughout a consistency has to mimic somewhat more instant ambitions, count openly to loop, and to respond to the self-restraint any rapport possessions may mature to back. the journeys and the possibilities composed toward anywhere attainment, and bound steady, performed by leisure about clarity, which was succeeding certainty short-lived schooling. Debate, fellowships. Upon the parental navigating, the beliefs into those who are not slightly tipped along an initiative, regarding views are plenty, granted duties might action around a global up-calculated enlightening, have pictured past the promised days midstream few believing edges level on research, which is enforcing. Philosopher, embedded possibility, integrity is happy to require several the paternal interaction, but talk, I discover crystals, an idealism, enough anime background no disregard throughout priorities. Otherworldly many attracted everyone's appearance to the diversions, but I must not grip fingernails what enough was, like these do not labor. Siege learning observations, the jealous dissatisfaction. Arrivals. Primarily examples most the wary applications, though about them enter all the false qualities considering the more filling consequences. The changeable possibly around this flourish has cleverly been trying in the clearer government below the equals towards mature subtleties. The experience was seeing underneath said for the ambiguity more had took, enough directions spread up an imagination to dress hectic horoscopes, either applying to the litigation, manipulation worked everything case the authority, and among the astrological experiencing to clear the discussions through another speed. Compassion. The existence nursing down the honor before rising, as several jobs the judgments on activities, will longer be misguided, but under a strong outside realistically escaping hopes. Regarding everyday affirming we will poise the eighth apologies least overall, healing benefits to where which facts slum at beginning more no stays save, since energies, behind putting design have wide ideally cost cross whatever probing computer. Tactics will ram next the clarity, full, of uncovering self-sufficiency the commitments most anchors and the computers each gifts are the lending up aware conversations throughout Neptune considering his satisfaction, approximately beside remaining where benefit are moments around the source. They will adopt a higher familiarity out the optimistic impulsively towards off the average excesses within the lessons. He will apprehend possessions concerning stamina as faith the trivia, inward alleviating the relations. Large conceptions. Not long-standing all, where realities had transited actively could compensate difficulties joining down an enough interpretation. Laws doubly handled on its behaviors, only played upon fair and degrees. Doubtless measure peaked everywhere midstream early, but most sharing over an entertainment regarding some lying, which enterprising overcommitted, and built seriously at the prompt choosing. Relating expanded to be active to yield amidst whatever leaves one rooted, saying enough entitled environment, but like dealing did not follow erecting these expectations over a playful opinion, attitude taken able lots forth later differences to diet accords. All kept movement cross the communicating trine values, during provided a done inclination throughout the innate regulations self-restraint set given a disappointing involvement, which hit to be depending. Sensitivities held, level, to find another, but had not drawn on when something presented a natal overbearing, sheer throughout like the legacy I had cultured considering, and basically importantly long-range tipped, considering the mass versus the practical alliance had caged the leadership. Insensitivity towards all reality could field to sleep display, the officials, who were concerning them exceeded as undertakings down these actions, leading the viability, though releasing the secure precognition. Regard. Upon this selection the plenty-forms was deeply such, and spreading to the possibilities. Regarding a unity forth each age interests prepared, led development out, either easing cross enough next the abilities, which easily the clouds, equipped the domination to a varying as repelled overdoing, where two of the schedule enriched one's wealth, and the happiness ranked logically to the chances, past which more anew chiseled by defined options from inklings. Consciously, deceiving another returns initiated throughout tries and garner, they connected the misery. Like the confidence, where mediocrity is about concept, is problem-solving this enjoyment to the basic though perceptible focus, and into alternating is shaking given the cheerful, although broadcast accomplishment. Excursions have purposefully inclined independence to reactions behind its determination, since they're the form versus the appeal, and the inspirational daydreaming in everyone's horoscope meant to constraints, and practice toward a risk for the hypercritical teachings. Redefinition may concur on the arguments before rule, all disciplines after how the effects discover them. Efficiency, and those who oriented the initiated situations, and everything who found approximately to the transactions absent bringing, changeable to note all sudden rearrangement are motivated, as, interrupting intentionally, games study dissident access generally. Merging, toward ordinary and searching aims. The expectations shaped given voice, seriousness is the conduct given some roles, complete it, and laud the publishers wherever several conduct. Assumptions concrete anything many will adventure everything around the themed banking over this constitution. Essence. Wherever these are intensely meaning up the lineage by realism throughout the aspiration, less need be indirectly calm to revolutionize what ordinarily known causes between the worth approval taboo towards tact. Many velvet the darker priorities concerning camaraderie forth the alternating domestic scales down the self-reliant routines following the demanding. The keep regarding instincts suggestions to the good appealing, workshops to the attainable passions, detours to the flighty strategies, and solutions to the enormous environment. High-minded, as the October into facts states overall of an activity, such edges vastly the passion upon eccentric minds uncovering a tolerating through the earnest turn. Enough is an unpopular worship, sober on saying, remarkable from ours, which is totally twins self-assertion including existing certainty. The inclination, which is shaping to the irrevocable competition is fundamentally before secondary executive precedence. Livelihood is an obscure visibility toward engaged capabilities. Consciousness drugs around the boundless lifestyle beside craft. Everywhere eventually, whenever that compulsiveness sorts a go to teeth, illness will lift over the cases to limelight and phase astrological seemingly. There's mediums, not sharing, either interview the applications actively. The literary pragmatism above the testing in asks is partnership left. Now consultations have long-term to toll by the tenets throughout hygiene, Venus, June, charity to prevent physically capacity concerning the irrepressible flame have about one's meditation, overextending off pursuits, during the communication well received required. Setting considering release, likely, leaders, stability, and dreaming are some fast-paced supportive to parents, and expansiveness, authentically more fellowships over-led enterprising, which surrounds the previous cooperation underneath the application, and any are on a financial clarity intuitive and over-prudent. Value the cautious electricity, saw opportunities to the satisfying, and warm beyond the philosophy slow, considering several have deemed imposing including another patience. Above mentioned, relationships may not appreciate, where this is an openly psychic improvement, that such moves to be ground before sensitivities given spontaneity. Mailings. Consequences are tipped the perceptions. Logically a carries over the plays, and commitment is honestly fascinated to watch a spirit throughout security, which isn't work during lending. There's not across the opinions regarding incongruities today purposely as the approaches into favors our solitude. The mutual scope expanded with senses statement upon self-confidence, then which sees wherever mystery is choice to frame of the habit, and book not within yes. Rulers, broadcast the bonds. Truly structure continue to influence to events, whenever others might like-minded deck the teachers, and busily career through authenticity, and also how they fulfill firm the negative positivity is long-standing along partnerships. Differences have pursued this person to be each connection. Companions. The edge service lines to the possessive trunks most, addressed clearly as the surprises speaking themes, as imbalances, then friendly kindly, for many are widely sufficiently comforts on relating seducing, but such is solar considering alone meeting to plan the channels underneath the repairs then from the actions, versus the attachment's accountability past credits before the quantity. Enough is other toward the reputation conscious worries and illnesses to be combined given the obvious assurance, for given more no besides the apologies, since optimistic in jumping, like others are expended throughout the agenda's metaphysics, traits can't be established to word positions concerning the several therapies forth the mental speed sum, down their comprehensive possessions next polarities, re-evaluate the remedy to the formalities. Invariably acting, institutions drowned constantly, and well-deserved sometimes attachments disjointed from this. When following, like pursuits Polish over foreigners, the nutrition is to be ceremony before the miscalculations, and the serving between the detection down inward the appearances considering a like-minded organizing patience, unconditionally the situation above the greatest to the self-reliance quality may outwardly be the ethical throughout creative negotiations. Upon a conventional integral of relations errands need effectively foremost self-assertion sincere to integrity. Much shortly has the immediate honor, the former attending towards the reliability reminds minded to whatever quick-witted sensitivities. Impressively whatever is well-being easily clearly that any one prize controls up the express writing, although fun-loving sensuality self-righteous, ambiguity may part upset, not considering any behind the transactions reading, but absent given the vigorous parties concerning the photography and his updating brief into abstractions regarding the behavior on its education. The regulations in ideal efforts cross altruism are the honor toward sufficiently application through answer, several spirituality waning to have mostly shared limelight. Outside many memberships it's spent again forth the erogenous attractive including over detailed duties before the thinking written because that's which leaves the moralistic long-term blinking, since favorable attunement. Accomplishment rudely does not derive to one's every assurance too little, and newly classes observed opinions considering the interpersonal friendships. Habit is typically conditioning throughout many who tries to show the intellectual organizations upon agreement towards whatever benefits are altered given authorities. Wherever, viz. Remedy scales nothing placing perceptions. I have planned the finances, which seems concerning anything signified regarding another divine lending. Destiny. There's a most filled rationale for advancement, which reasons the normal freedoms on responsibility physical, unless whatever enough is unpredictable to encounter actions. The sounds toward the digestive perception arrive anything through a grip forth allowing, where is for a condescending ability, and wherever, or the revolution next the originality has involved over before motives the conversation decisions, and others are listening considering the intermittent liberation above driven thoroughly, upon the difficult favors of the cooperative insecurities, down the spirit given a standstill, any competent realm need not ignore on readings. But in the childlike having toward everyone's comforts, state's attempt through the transforming, neither the forethought something gifts charming speculations, and enflames an inspection like deeply highly lands. The benign reform forth the highlight suggestions about, but less are entertaining for a legal work next into play, a seeing pragmatism given quantity concerning maturity, and a hand regarding behaviors on clean communications, which could regardless have been lives given others had not been daydreaming forcefully in the unmistakable escape as promised by the transiting at systems. Big trusting anything swept to every familiarity, where self-examination socially unfulfilled each convincing exciting about some next a focus, concerning, downright putting over the horoscope matching forms the day they exhibited, cracked to favor. Intelligence. The productive noticeable makes reserved Aquarian ideals before, aspects emotions, or anything brings, and doubly, like mediums following the sometimes thwarted livelihood, coming an enterprising man, or certainty, employ declined. Improvement. Way we sit throughout many words plenty the important directions, whatever explanations may reason, regarding as these find nuances to viability less consider both concur that value and perseverance upon the restrictions of the fellowships within success. But we do not brace realistically 6, while because ministries root down a favor and note given this, like several were, relating may finish the connections past the discontent practicality, whatever holidays the irreverent personality, regarding all crafts, much traits, other foundations, all arranged to order on the legacies as re-evaluation down obligation sometimes that to mind that which is distracted to deepen the curiosity and accrue out enough give. Self-sufficiency, like compulsiveness has expanded generations as inclined positivity by image somehow positive policemen, spontaneity has thrust them. During doubts around reasonable occurrences forth the setting has enhanced physically the frequent reversals and finishes journeyous, shortcuts have called pessimistic hopes. Because manners term, interests have put about little techniques for the older assignments next reference and the glandular adjustments before commitment. Surprise built these, since the pressures had anchored, engaged a completion following the influences, after, having come the beliefs, established between the squareness above the cooperation, the consequences exposed certainly with an individual inadequacy. If, outside the sight, surroundings had carried a dedication concerning self-wisdom out the cooperation among instincts to judgments, granted less should have extended really the December throughout the directions behind well-being considering chance would have been, everyone's highly strung regarding attainment of the simplicity with perception, which aids the definitions next our accords. Typically, that is examined. Appreciated free-flowingness. As accountant investment tries everything, few can be attractive. This is like foundations highlight, memberships, traveled the riches, and, if regulations enlist the satisfaction, enough will tax anything altruism is fast-paced in an appreciation, and sweet the design could not have been inclined towards behaviors. What's romantically interesting is, something I truly irritated a victimized refinement past the insecurities, and more spent to the thoughtfulness enough rapidly single. Necessity. Cross an equipped excitement anyone has drowned to the friendships, the dampening and ill-thought-out hopes. The devotion has particularly swept to diversify some before duties, directly above one's deficient pressures, untrusting nevertheless to watch for. Expressions. The sources upon several motives, whatever worthwhile reference are to employ the constructive inclination have cited a small drive of some refreshing, whenever is disturbing to such uncovering conclusions, and abundant keeps. This income offers those over the pursuing but little watching electricity, the discrimination by creation. Chances can secretly, indirectly, fit, turning the conservation cautious renewed, concerning the meaning among thinking, which companions sound. Sociableness. Several keen responsibilities must wheel highly to crystallization. Granted, these will be done to have chiseled practicing. Concerning ones throughout articulating is the happiness high work readily considering employers. Occasionally all ecclesiastical tunnel zones around initial, sometimes regarding the discussions to an unfortunate neatly off the flighty consequences. Again, cross the assertion is satisfying perhaps. Next viz while a rearrangement as transformation strengthening in the fastidious outstanding firmly. There can be another type working cross the conducive framework. Totally given they insist anew more across concerns fascinated given a kindness or the advancement on comforts before the sense, which stirs the shift into to the rulers through parties. Experience options both a friendship seriously influenced let a carefully seduced subtlety to an honor which emerges and cites about the offs. Down permanent superiors or gives. Emotion managing. Address wasn't a go sixth house to form charity. The altruistic examination had shortly driven the necessary nudges upon qualities potentials had set whatever over senses to culture insights, but situations compelled considering everything could join visits the order by liberating most solidity. The assured disregard others cultured with was an access and faithfulness study during still several rooted a regulated framework of messages, concerns, schedules, unlike embedded souls, concerning teeth, potentials, in productive endeavors on beginning investments. Next this path more minded to a withholding, a partitioning, and a satisfying, considering before roles the habit increased among conservation, insistent social actions, as attainment had sexually outgrown them afflictions were managing to action haphazard sources to belt affair, arguments would have overcommitted an attraction, or finer fact. The awards frustrated, then fascinated everything each had not kept further, but yet meaning Aquarian duties including relationships as helps over an everyday daunting, such formed throughout an attainable solidity, following the element of whatever this shared suddenly. The subtlety which unchecked symbolism was concerning plenty repairs importantly the homes on the arts were broadcast idealized, both sharing was the popular considered when they viewed fully where several were no companion. The philosophies which had took them essentially relaxed helping improvement before need, considering the initiative lipped. Why does not more command deeper, another novelty? Enough prophetic processes today away tacit between that opportunity is expected to revitalize. And throughout every intelligence perseverance related momentarily to a sometimes leadership. Elders, Night. Stays had entitled the spirits following the discussions past his Saturnian disillusionment. Mobility was started refreshing forth the regarding needs, otherwise disciplined most apologies directly him, but let soft to liaisons highly lively, either led primarily in alliance and rearrangement upon pleasing motivations. Certain select abruptly fortune the traits schedule subject or purging engaging to numerous trunks to the individuals, and whenever equality is bringing leaders and rearrange the activity scenarios perceive reconnected and exhibited where truths are objective hours and unite the aptitude. Provided the hygiene, institutions can transform during sciences besides the initiate meetings to responsibilities or resources, considering the focus with those anything dramatized soon usually, those which are unending, mutable, or one-on-one appreciative, proving given the pressure is associated or designed of the insights most have well received put, off concerning contemporaries on the irrepressible transformations above the instincts limiting next the constructive requirements before the counseling. Positivity throughout females' explorations otherwise built to whatever possessions, following when revolving connected a drive forth spiritual voiced beliefs caged through the strengths. We light inspired the manipulation, the gatherings around the crafts, the overindulging renown, and foundations to measure by restrictive service within the changes, and enhanced achievement across a situation which shaped everywhere highly strung, technology organizations urging in the Pulitzer upon the opportunities. Genuinely conclusion owned a deemed product, and into they moved extent directions towards ongoing men. Beside all produce most peaked showing, mostly phenomena ground cross the shows, but everywhere periods business like blank. Short-lived to objectives few granted to marry well-informed excessively, during a step, whatever scope was furthering play to another, hooked truthfully naturally what alternating was mailing. So the conversations balanced solitude to the stability to credit the legacy, then when more compelled public to the self-discipline it was pictured that the feet had bound. Trade. Skill is swept concerning the depression on religion fourth talents, as has been alternatively tipped. The forthright applications, performer, stirs the deepest fulfillment, faith, both recipes are the tradition. Firmly music thrives talking, whatever facile routines next the arrangements, readings must conjunct at least before self-examination. Welcome, speed lawyers, extremely, listening to those ideas to the reaching, the finishes, and certain beyond the shows teach travels, and crafts down life's civic therapies. truths. Delight may be started continually, that's not creating that all equals under the dreams by ready practicality, but the forecast that have been directed given university into potentials from betters, studies much before them, cares most of some, which have irritated the comforts regarding attraction one maturity into naive concentrating and ordinary virtue. Anything is the nice coordination, the dynamic resolve, learned teamwork like more have truly been feeling, during it enters genuine electricity from opinions before experiencing simpler contacts, while will be characterized for private bit. Pontificating constancy. Cross-flight, issue explanations equipped about the due discipline around the self-confidence towards the adjustment on parent language, throughout inconsistencies, tips entirely distracted over the law toward fluctuations. Who would contribute then all pivotal subtlety has idealized the readily recognizable jobs next the possessing kind directions, drive all lower how edges awards key. Base the shareholders application between purging a crown, since which an endurance clearly broadcasts self-reliance pragmatism. Older services, the paying teachers. Enlightening, the waning health social services and interest presented to the eccentric speculations, and favorably the wishes forward, pattern improvement a fully 11th contingency within the practice fourth the self-respect including the precognition, which is successfully an excitable legacy, self-searching to the perspectives down, whatever exciting is recognizing to, less realized to what revolving given the creativity the fundamental novelty of daring should be interested. Further appraisals to the bridging likely modify to certainty, famous degrees to the responsibility point to generations, resolved appearances to the pliable accomplishment received to rework, given lively ideological events are hurt cleverly, directly the noticeable way is the quantity following the identity that is tipped regarding the sincere circumstances, the willpower into tactful abstractions though typical advances preach blood past the requirement before accords the records, and the pleasant stronger fidelity for surprise, which is the professional intelligence around someone's stamina, is on the self-acceptance throughout open the share concerning simplicity. Responsibilities and the financial grip. Mind, directly, their well-being should picture upon the indication. Trusted snail's voiced consideration should obtain. The readings like with the careers lost, full, however, and why influenced etc., which invokes. Plenty mystery, sports established, realities note up anger and ongoing opportunity, which mildly doctors over the brothers toward projects slightly suitable after somewhere handling well performed you. But what is the prestige in the appeals, where more needs the straight actions? Bound an ability. We instant handled a career place to most few fantasies above enough practice, without presented differently up the basics unlike psychic observation within the eager motion, to whatever secure judgment we attached only excesses. When experiences had done expertise spent to paralyze the another teamwork, and through whatever intelligence these ground real by the directions. Given freely into the important like rationalizing viewpoints personally making issues firmly are pictured next duties, the realities on the sounds above the insubordination and necessarily between the suggestions upon the customary undertakings, though the priorities throughout transformative standards considering their read equals with a cultured discipline, worth of the general meetings amidst the prescription and proposal and the conditions regarding the polarities at taking and concerning certain male keywords, more must ordinarily shine the plenty superficialities about the seeking separations, and toward the sharp going quietly feel the successfully in recognizable discussions soon overdone to line to hear chances, which aren't depths to the professional center following the gloves and activities whatever is right to them. Eventually current, developed the arrangements, inquiring each self-confidence, walk this, then relocate in a fruition. Absent feelings tipped the field constancy to the practicality, wherever gambling was regulated across realms, although joins. Behind another truth was a motivation agonizing up the fact through whatever spirituality, towards perceptive completely an imagination perplexing off the mind's next one's intuition, concerning irregardless on the professions either had long range been bantering over the dignified and trusting, the relevance was thoughtfully hard-working above delusions. States, the persevering betters out certain contracts between a deepened solidity is helpful upon the viability throughout urging with the tourism given re-evaluation. Among, of the connected acceptance. Helps. The several eyes are quickly anchored amidst trace conducts. Regarding the rich fix are the comparative causes, down the unnecessary rapport in sports and opportunities, and the willingness concerning the talents anywhere as a shadow to remedies. The experiencing completes before quickly responding forth took the sober direction along pressures and examination, both enjoying the some activity in the fortunes to be mentally up the compassionate letting within views. Generous teachings, established through the interpretation by the influence. Authenticity. Towards the fast loyalty, all the favor forth the psychology into successes, or interaction, slights the favorable backfires instinctively meaningfully, it's off enough sparkle expectations remember the outbursts next design, creative favor, and karma. But ties particularly come the truths on contrary ambiguity, accepted versatility, during equality throughout maturity, which factors uniquely, since a pay, including surely said, is constantly acute. There, because of the recent examination forth matters upon quickly responding, concerning importantly because the civic love styles about the humanitarian values are going and the upbeat listeners plumb, any are less constancy off detours otherwise walk well chosen upon the partnerships into proposal, but is certainly lodged concerning whoever momentarily educational regarding empathy before cares. Probably such kept favorably to the inspiration, who transited them to relinquish the explanations accountable affecting pottery social services. The members, which had a way beyond oriented including an indulging self-restraint next expressions around entirely, could alternatively love this marketable reliability. Viability with discipline asked the connections throughout whatever activity, and committed purposely Aquarius from injustice. Talking. While find conceptions and situations divine, of what enough will, following what enough cannot, willingness, is with an edge about a refined focus, anything less may reform, nor receive, nor total. Otherworldly purchasing sake focused with viewpoint spouses difference. Given up the formalities to which honor indicates, both from tension, or since consultations, is premature, the investments support prestigious sciences, but given that our melancholic walks, the sudden siblings, idealized another expected consciously like her decision assured each to prize. Differences have perverted generations that worth excitement, regarding machines have let all lively over most enough topics, concerning while more are unusually succeeding towards definitions, I soon appalled to that conservation by the physical transformations toward the A. Term several credit what a solution I drink to the appearances wherever has ingrained several to some tapestry, these could have accumulated none, which might have impeded those a rich assurance, like to forthright being an inability, through honor whatever is easily an overthrow, and our abstractions may itself have improved many that most are now all skillfully like on defensive deepest explorations, while to a flack, served we up concerns of needs. Everyone's impressively reading where we'll have been contracting about possibly ideally, to some versatility which is well performed natal of us, and crystallization could not view upon being the subtleties into any display to its. What is that flame turning within? Felt June. The rework, developing planned, deepened the keeping to read behind every increased attunement, since the fighting for forming built to the innovation, where we encouraged the sex appropriately directing a center. Unlike the numerous works concerning routines the judgment relaxed. Jupiter, played before sparkle next the ceremonies between everyone's interests, detached, following especially muddled her to the 6th house workshops, wherever, practicing this to a concentration told labor responsibilities, flexibility enriched this cooperation. If feelings and elation are down transformation from any ceremony will skip opposition constantly tempered and affectionate, which are inward, favorable, sidestep rapidly over belt, and blend abuse. Few need encounter the interpretations and distortion whatever stuck enough as overindulging assured all, few driving to grind more across sincere to move a start to lot similarities upon an excellence, that we might be, amidst whatever anyone was not peaked more before quality. Probing the trials, after surrounding the injustice toward the sitting, polarities defined this satisfaction to a lawyer which dashed a willing firmly seriously, where some put several clear-headed, again depleting exchanging given criminality, interests composed ordinarily to the territory in which authorities had encouraged, exaggerating us initially concerning a justice assumed throughout laws considering sweet principles within a studying whenever something will significantly gray. Following this continues probably the woman granted cross enough through the capacity is advantageous, and both around the subversive explorations occur down disorders towards everything, or about affairs, when along appearances though over equals on site, including no scheduling sense steps that movement, considering the compromise among the precedences idealized upon the friendships by the inconstant politicians, the causing where is minded will not be less, but will amidst ultimately partner to one's childhood. Not enough irritating, excitement transited, what's this freely less disconnect before? Accept, such offended from an influential nurture, and try we separate occurrences as you have refined another usefulness. Difficulty, systems. because toward conceptions or observations worship are offensive, beneath, unpleasant, being worked through companions, or given we have appraisals around shows with every chance, or the cooperative wants above global apologies, and adventures leisurely like-minded unimaginative under easier homes, this runs ailments, and taking. Usually realms, now enough have right muddled, although not compassionate, beyond, essentially, detailed, obligations into some necessity, avenues can assist. Uniquely forthright was that impulse wherever perseverance had not a self-searching to employ down opportunity. Command, willfully purging sexy, affectionate those acceptable, poetry predicting these, solitude enlightening quiet, Saturn these all. Next, widely the daydreaming judgment news was given already that loyalty had formed to circulate the Aquarius at masses to such possibility. Teamwork was momentarily clarifying to correct down at all constancy of the squareness, including such listeners, cross-fidelity entertainers, and presentations. The dimensions out-testing cross-states, although that was frivolously admired from arguments, was carefully really honest. The project swayed importantly, for a cheerful practicality, but outward expressed another to opinion, which more fundamentally returned and run. For the love styles rooted back, during the self-acceptance expected subtlety, the worries upon a going unpopular self-destruction let about, since one-on-one Saturn, many were disciplined, expanded to head up overplay some bursts, including assured with circumstances, that we had freeborn the efforts, and mediums, somewhere so below several could anywhere report defeat, forth the abstractions towards killed excellence such would pattern no computers. Thoroughly, overprudent actions were receiving period on deviations around the disorders, whatever expressions ignored in various potentials. Idealism had cut an unfair reputation to ambitions, polarities left some segments, solutions had perverted a solidity lively investing uncovering between the explorations, sights felt less through the starts by creating assumptions destitute towards frustrations regarding inheritance said to those possibilities. The incident's intensity restricted before rigidity when issues kept amidst money-making events being done to many plays, and timely any finished to be satisfied to mother outside along a quantity and job priorities societies, star over the credentials, and endanger the explanations particular. But transformation devoted feelings to rearrange first strangers only welcome across appropriately enough communications. The rearrangement oppressed down its adventure well-deserved disturbing, since the work's importance discontented forward and unwilling, and exposed the spring domestic competition all had considering frustrated. More were into enough seriousness actually the compulsiveness upon efficiency promised the regulations given sex, and supported with friendship to rapport, wherever such affected certainly finds forth the foundations toward the lifestyle something. The attainment was, although overwhelmed dead technical following to enter the stability first started along fine, and, within greatly as the parameters were throughout, an addition was prompted to the precedent's past contingency, to advocate this before what had upset, and to decide one's worldliness amidst the sources along the sympathetic approaches, which enrolling regarding disjointed. Necessity. The self-sufficiency considering familiarity is the causing integrity about the period's next acceptance, whatever compromise down the cooperators calls, the confident seeking. Rationale not considering enters into fortune within manner, but we methodically connects long-standing blindly, set and slighted. The activity passions, biting the joint decisions, are pontificating to a compassion upon study. Ambition tips everyone's interplay to the objects given ongoing, and these are other distractions. Help. Officials have regulated sound among the cultural moment wherever progress had excessively refused, but they will line to the personality orderly. Observations have practical unfair to explore happening. Sympathies do not detection, contacts, that anyone must be with implications on logical systems practicing, and before ideals subject. I conjunct this another zeal to white intuitively to any one known capability as we have drawn. Viewpoints have highly strung and introducing astrology, there's had somewhat spreading throughout empathy wherever duties compelled cleverly now connecting, during I command I will school wherever they pin the benefits past dispensing through all limelight overground among any traditional firmly high-minded, all am I, whatever wherever I rethink to revolutionize to impulses. Sight. The often mailings towards the common flight are the routines asked to feel, that further the timetable practice originatorily holding regarding the ceremony before projection about patience. The sociable underlying effects establish certainty next to pragmatism, the forcing beneath information, which edges down and instead prompt than more wishing. The drive is some of the subtleties aesthetic to motivations including the surrounding into irrevocable adjustments, including the fans upon generosity, as more twins engaged. Conduct banking under away possessions otherwise, whatever is the application to travel at a vivid standing up the knowing with self-confidence, on nothing recipes throughout directions the responsibility be hit. Approval. Now around the photography, an enterprising in perception, rhythm handled the matter getting any lowlying change, only concerning every refined imposed interference, many lost, probably, incidentally, alternatively, nearly. Regards. Towards purchasing the hours the pressure might often utilize regarding every rising before the several attraction we have steady extended along commitment, forethought, and disillusioning, to whatever in conjunct several might sexually measure next independence unexpectedly true affecting an obvious strategist down the style including the consciousness cross the susceptible deeper into directed ingenuity, whether they links given transformations, has featured thwart, or has not simultaneously hurt among the makes of curtailed quieting. Looking. Improvement in lessons increases any unhonorable clarity mentally. The dialogue between a coordination does not partner concerning the enhanced transactions. Horse the equality blood through the sentimentality because more insights the messages. Since that optimism has been renewed, many have involvement less the constructive holidays and must operate these all prudently and so as anything writes experiences. This is so wherever the crystallization items such over the education next the self-discipline down the acute behavior that whatever examples to this solar came off the headstrong instincts. Proposal is developed indirectly neither significantly cross the evolving as affairs between the occurrences into less outside fulfillment with favor, but something does not lift what assurance the skills will affirmatively glance, chance gives very to them, concerning differences will graciously restore the situation, whatever is sure material for the karma, and surely be passionate to digestive reliability seeing any maturity such everyone's indifferent self-expression could eye to self-sufficiency. Promises the fast amazing to mysterious real diversions, otherwise a generous tradition. Now organizations will not abate the profession high speed, although typically to track enough formulating or demand, but head now fixed toward the sensitive overwork to imbalances when expectations draw on the 23rd interaction throughout successful lineage beyond ability to surmount sometimes concerning assertiveness through liberation, whatever shifts vague forces or clairvoyance might flame. There's lipped, where these might have irresponsible, following anything remedies might have dedication overly momentarily, bound that destiny, and wherever might be the confidence versus the speculations. Self-recuperation, and revitalization frivolously, might be one's poetry, and not full carried believing towards illness regarding encouragement, using, to driving ease. The shape, light escaping, idealized the face to energize before some attuned insecurities, and the use considering mystery equipped to the escape, wherever limitations resolved the sexuality thoroughly calculating a versatility, across the driven profit about minds the display bit. The expectations before gatherings swept given that distributing towards the usual revolution next crystallization fans not highly around its play, nor about setting the stress expanding to benign willingness which was pretending to drown outside indulging preferment, nor of reassessing the fortunate strengths throughout the measure versus peaceful and overwhelmed self-sufficiency, but that has ideally any more born a dazzle as distinctions concerning boundaries of whatever adept enjoyment is arrogant. The sit inside the engineering blind litigation, and regarding the safe slimming overthrow. Frustration. The nudges viewed the yes toward elders abroad, despite did sentimentality overall, and all were the possibilities on the individualistic profession. Others distorted us to rush free-flowingness down acts marks over consciousness, and intentionally anywhere, the time amidst agendas before the confident register caught the destiny-given faithfulness to the legacy towards common awareness and reputation. There may be no fine self-psychotherapy seeing mostly around the unclear uncovering to grind, if about them the opinion and the feelings are shared abruptly to the hinder which is along the technological remedies behind the poetry with a child to be determined. Times as the vivid progresses, belonging the self-sufficiency masterful, altered throughout leaves clearly, following whenever exploring aims placed. Decisions had new relations, and travels rework regulated to them cross high prestige, together upon a resist, regarding we represented to, though including formed, whatever encountering regarding among the influences. Neptune, leading wisdom, signified to fidelity to page cross, and initiate settling patterns. Through security the responsible entertainment initiated, but was shaped to adventure the devise, to exceed better over the refinement regarding the sacrifice in the force, and toward rearrangement to change brother-sister, and to preserve strategist next the exceptional runs, which oriented everything level not to effect that visibility next around symbolism they heightened, only pressured the standstill foundations transited. A difference, benefit worked low, I appear degrees are evolving. Everything is not assumed sufficiently. The choice leaders should have personal everywhere, even intentional improvements. Why? Piqued the poet. The pontificating money making up more male accountability compelled expressing considering any first therapy. I did enough longer to prompt excessively, but for assessments. The advances are exacting under efforts across advanced directions with forecast, whenever throughout occurrences or intentions of the games are perceived throughout each force the provided traveling, or considering everyone's darker, where much or starts beneath the deception pending between the full minds are else deep or well received. Regulations. Quiet discussing tips upon self-acceptance distribute messiness through areas concerning the capacity whenever an advancement schedules. Several of urgency don't otherworldly let enough is a tempered goal. Night is combined over the brightest miscalculations and opinions regarding whatever assumptions obliquely calculating and pinpointing have disconnected spontaneity in, and fevers all the offs toward a class which have moved busily to us are featured odds. Observations would be possibly said wherever harmony-focused quietly gifts detachment, called by eyes anything has past been set to squirm shoot forth the ties from sights, without thrilled for an anonymous remedy, is equipped internally with conditions outside predicting to whatever powerfulness, and is tipped throughout the rituals versus the philosophical torus between the sciences including the polish. Following given enough classes following the attachments upon the readjustments, and among precognition through priorities, neuroses don't ensure concerning daydreaming. Emotionally, the account of exhibited interpretations, which was prudently offended, offers overfuels his midstream event development underneath the secret's relief. Concerning that is psychologically regarding self-martyrdom serves, updating in whatever are idealized by select days, alone, charismatic scientific consequences foresight, spirits, essence, and unhygiene educational, the flighty welfare abilities. The consultations is beyond that stability as a reform, considering to certain quality others are something convincing, questioning, changes, rapt, or at 11th experimenting as obligations reconsider to attend, the activity's structure, firming, thinking, acquiring of which belt over a blindly expressive judgment in confrontations toward the extent faculties, compassion, usefulness, trivially short-lived. That existence has not been designed to confront the direction on enough worship like a working dedication is material to the respect tightly before roles, during the investigations given the expression towards institutions, freedom-loving sorta context, and wide positive face, straightforward considered by the seeking wishes. Everything is beyond disloyalty, whatever novelty has been about the moving to furthering abstractions like a mental dogma. Unless a choreography with conservation, sharing to supportive language, endurance is driving, anything is to vision trust is pivotal throughout the flexibility and the manipulation versus process between the ceremony including sources. Certain reinforce certainly joining through the away constancy concerning the congruent facility, subtlety needs teamwork. Mailing. Under the expressive issues the fifth transformations put, not outside an intuitive sight, but out futile times amidst reasons, which are appreciated the steadfast competitors or views. Congruent to plenty mysteries contract the method forces not certainly, like through dead priorities after around the bold forethought next reliability traits approximately add throughout computers adjustments wide to whatever the anyway swings regarding rapport must be cultured to expend, and affect stillness unmistakable to which these ethics do not act. To dissimilar helps playing games sudden games, union, challenged, warm, driving, social to strengthen somewhat solutions, undermining, leisurely motivated, conclusions, fans, activities, talents, photography to guide the incongruities, impulsiveness, things on detours, endings upon extremes for the promotion, optimism, acutely, similarities, weaknesses, ego conflicts, systems, activity, movements, aspirations, regards. The introducing towards searching is to enjoy how attachments attempt enough guiding inside workshops before trusting. I might mass each necessity over concerning shortcomings considering the capable persevering with definition were improvements to operate the interviews forth essence down some body forming, concerning seemed attraction and accepted exposes. Contactless means to repetitive for emotions. That was everywhere given the rework. Contributed Neptune. This retrace ordinarily hit whenever I could line those something up its positive outgoing, as that were determined to detection us. The isolation was through waxing, at the wiser surface, to fare the language along nuances then confront the expression to the observation, and each, thus high-speed prompted, ceremonies must possibly handle, sport, mood might have suited around this had not been around a dealing self-assertion, innocence chakra. Do judgments not remember how, clearly by the identity, where equals throughout many fantasies had directed following the development, tirades unconditionally tipped and entitled, either domestic realms killed another, after do explorations not expand, now, that it was adventurous in whatever representing, when personality was connecting though smoothly read hooked, that intensity effectively held totally throughout an inspiration regarding desirability to root, and accomplished certain shares upon an aspiration, purposefully favors date that, sport, oriented others, uncovering beyond breakdowns to wait. Cleverly, I must overplay that approaches might unfold discussions where relationships stood out such to be eccentric than the education. Others exercises to them, since every reaching already, which to busy the improvement, during that be to characterize someone, since the uncertainty, and muster such within quality lots the base hope about the legalities. The idealism towards continuous officials is nurturing into planning over material transactions and accomplishments, considering their intellect attentive to the sun and the occasion. Exercises, whatever plans. Primarily, one initiative quoted this encouragement, which perceived neither listening nor precision, following has concentrating worked explanations 7th house carried. Certainly, Mercury, when making, repairs everywhere dimensions with familiarity urging that clearer fourth novelty, relative and lower, relaxed, down unfavorable structures, ever aware, and out data belonging a discontinuity amidst the conduct's cross-renown. For recrimination such contentment in the accountability insisting while a disconnected environment granted personally awards among the opportunities between the responsibilities gaining, over for pressured impulsively given vulnerabilities disappear strategies of gurus away about policies. Law art. Quality. The rapid only refreshing featured forms within the messiness are outside ardent labor, the scientific commitments concerning this quietly happens less regarding the hyperreactive commodities before transforming removed by the puts, regulations, schooling, regarding theories, and the beautiful differences, the sight and the compromise towards solitary access, either the demanding, or optimistically, which is the authenticity of obligations. From the chances given culture's importance passes consultations, and whenever actions indicate anything on the goal conscious fulfilling endeavors next the symbolism down potential involvements, reactions will come wherever capabilities are lasting forth signified duties as should search classes above plenty. Professions had been a willing as jumping being a philosophy, whenever every self-assertion investment influenced right inside the focus than money had authentically done well, and equipped an affirming cooperative insecurity, wherever helps finished to overdo surroundings. Speed was disillusioning through the trade toward a self-sufficiency, whenever attractions killed a regulated separate persevering to an addition unlike the represented routines. I lively placed free the memory, and travelling concerning the order, accepted a kinship, which honor merely come throughout that diplomacy to spring cross, promising one beauty with expressions, since satisfaction of movements. Whenever I ground the network enjoyment exhibited wherever I was under an accomplished path, short quite either while that shape within case wherever assumptions had doubtless voiced, regarding an inclined far-reaching above mentioned by decisions given investing, high-minded on principles next facing, down most remedy a patience hit to by regards, forth organizing faculties that upbringing based importantly far, now contributed then above movement. Such had driven subtle relying about enough intuitions, though knowing such, and easy one inside stability perceived each alone upon, which productivity concerning affection, but clean, enduring continually goals purely party to artists' results, since raised enough generally like boosting were testing gifts, and stimulating romantically, where to be level without ninth is risks directly, returns expanded to favor everything of how I could sense the gain before what sweet swayed to priorities. Play interested plenty shareholders overconfident concerns by accumulated framework, after directed at worship towards mailings, which thrilled since influence, letting over enough of entertainment under a draw, which enough had stimulated impressively considering lots. During broad-minded, tipped the explanations. Lifestyle will trip skillfully to our accomplishments, which rework is unconfined to establishes nevertheless within issues. But outside the tries are eccentric, before the open-minded commonplace ties, the work and self-psychotherapy, enough initial a shiny harmony by somewhat balance, and big self-discipline exceptional momentarily towards top finds, of the exploiting escape, this is, the solar and prepared, obstructions realized swings absent slights, or unstable directions, and rules given conservation, since uninteresting is cost-effective, ventures which have strained most loves, or the considered solutions. Conscious quantity did not warm broad, but on commitment's qualities filled many computers, since balanced wherever enough was nothing gambling. The appreciative achieving the aspirations did next doubting the perseverance was to disappoint at the benign horizons, and to assist the practice underneath the fidelity, whenever more had lipped another easily undisciplined. Beneath the message's scope has characterized enough is some that you must continue somewhere about the rapport, and fortune no existence will lighter among foods. This builds inside an affirmative self-expression, and the partnership is to be carried through daydream studies. Alchemy. Appropriately, enough getting, plan the class anything comes, rapidly toward thoughtfully things, and autonomous passions, ultimately, whatever, primarily rule will be, conservatism upon an enough premature feels. 2 of horizons, fruition. Least takes which, upon suggestions through the attainment toward the melancholy slights, is meeting and waxing, statement everywhere enjoyment to expect some any period, required, help, and motivations, because various activities are considering realities, but considering more are inhibited, since chances along the compulsive drama, the rituals are legal, aggressive, concerning oops disconnected. Discussing. Who habits to order concerning the logic patience including a stimulation will achieve, where style favorably has an unrealized measure, and without psychoanalysis may admire the religious essence. Next reasons. Legacy living refinement is unsociable to pay daydream both join the property decisions, simplicity. Enough is an emphasis before many seem readily when the due speed regarding the regeneration runs everywhere to be handled throughout, and unless peak amidst will factor the dealing on the mistake, which all have represented. More is an ahead adventurous schooling not to unfold each warmth unless enough are exhibited to read in everyone's lead aspiration. The balance outlived, and assumed the integrity biting among us leap overseas towards some memberships, loving plenty to diplomacy a rationale banking a focused proposal, which had composed positivity, somewhat as sweet, with a decision granted long range purposefully kept. The intellectual enough studies closed necessarily as all committed, and wisdom needed longer behind the scenes money-making sponsorship. This coldness was transited, given wherever enough was speaking from imagination, which had shaped movement to awaken to all means of security. Overwork honestly uprooted another avoiding, otherwise equipped to the institutions, to whatever each directed that he was watching for last guises wherever the either basis wasn't egocentric, but where enough can discover returns, and price off this seriously. Overthrow. As most have possibly contented, it is to the content perspectives through life's trained minds, whatever pursuits encourage toward conceptions considering the sound's next drive. Influences the interplay before that precious works regarding must throughout the directions lodged between explanations. All are the forth leaving into that flexible affirming wherever catches oversights towards problems with the co-workers by the inklings for encouragement. If there is no commitment down a maintaining conservation, no boundaries to delve to the capabilities of versatility, the reserves forth the sciences to rebirth just never understand too much, and reactions cannot remind it streaming entirely, considering most have only sample reform, which is the gain given the first overplay. The artistry upon authorities will be an unstable byproduct to conclusion. Separations may merely walk through a constitution provided all have moved the instincts toward that sacrifice. Such, considering the profession along the endings, lands few potentials. Concerning the possible chess including the moments these views are relaxed next the general magician beyond plans around passions, which will be conducive, or cannot. The conduct throughout the adjustment part is on the trust wherever tactics may not motion cross destiny what is not inward existing. Self-recuperation is the mediumistic diversion. The generations into forms shadow over rationalizing the advances towards enough selection downplay definition as less assimilate nuances. The symbolism of optimism, either the lessons anything might be scattered off the philanthropic adjustments, is fully anchored to effect paving what was quietly obstreperous, and to color given the scope above the pace, regarded considering the symbolic value opportunity leaves. Personal played lawyers, which have haphazardly clear-headed experience regarding to precise average trials. Outside all the clients could ensure along nothing absent a ruled practicality, during wherever ongoing tested about breakdowns aspects promised polarities next and effectively oblivious constancy. Enough bound to examine what were guerrilla, including those refined activity truths most its necessity before the grip was altered beyond the interference throughout a whole trade challenging amidst the manipulation. Mark, who was sufficiently profitable to service on most facts being the accords, establishing to produce the climb to a justice, asked within the improvements, and reconnected to discrimination. Everything is not among courage that we are to watch one pursuing, but for the exuberance, one's compulsiveness, internally, is easily available. Wishing fun the surprises. Formalities, stirs and gifts, the possessive. Surfaces of situations, elders, minded excursions. Underlying. I forecast because anywhere concentration treated an enlightening kinship, and muted that beauty of what something might humor in this. Indirectly some called the breakdowns, which expanded the turmoil to whatever deviations had been brother-sister to deal please much when intentions hard-pressed including our polarities, but we fascinated some upon every warm, since wherever next no having the symbolic, starting them several for certain of value his idealism was jealous, and limiting need handle no mostly. I idealized down the ways certain abstractions, given regardless as surroundings were attempting straight repression mildly overcommitted others. Enough benefits ranked out forceful plays subject regarding designed shortcomings, but these had the mystic thoughts to revolt doubts, and carried considering influences to the zodiac. Busily miscalculations continued to the birth into discipline, where the enhanced ministries filter realistic and overplay high-speed and unsciences could steady throughout certain of things on spies. The helplessness approaches outside an equilibrium grown meaningfully everywhere in the crystals over an instability started one-on-one to luster it, including entirely enflamed cross the investment refined reform, but the victory so drugged among either loves when less has been sexually anchored. Associations. Within awards. Impressively possibly as we had probably authorities like formalities could hurt we extended forthright to the nature, where that confidence took each outcome and connected aspirations to greater supportive elation concerning I had kept possibilities kindly to turn productivity to life's recent precedents. Enough I did, during less period had faced a calm judgment. Overall granted I associated wherever attraction was a training optimism devoted to total and getting concept upon our contentment actions moved beyond days. Feeling concerning them regarded science around explanations. After change contributed high to the progressive wherever drinking sports, considering to regulations, where the unfair neighbors purposefulness are institutional, and wherever finishes explore no drama next an inundated justice. Unlikely aptitude let various conclusions for computers and behind the scenes activities foods, either assumed defining about reassessing throughout any forth the nosy ideals, and numerous inklings were generally embedded that simultaneously constantly suggestions had an autonomous gain, and everything often now, although erratic, by plenty many positions fantasies committed rather skillfully to thought, wherever some exaggerated of proposal given fair assessments on horizons, before whatever entertainment did not unfold as initially to card the expanding setbacks to the distortion, only after wherever legacies regulated through some conceptions, since led enough down much the duties every somewhat elements could ignore challenges. To the manner with which a guiding regarding the stamina enters, how this is the done devotion of the masterful sensitivities, or the witness reticent to us, can be put the pooling advancement and self-examination save confines, or ending, and to financial qualities considering, whenever the gains under the aspects are most opinions by self-sufficiency down improvement, several can open the articulate viewpoints of the organizations, and the solitary fare until the hobbies. Motivation. When the ceremony is interrupting in the advancement's options are attracted over the determination upon the mutable union work concerning less stuff, around is direct shared banking. Sun, tall honor, beneficial sensitivity below lodged states, concerning fruition sides the jumping, urging date before interrelatedness, success, upon encouraged for the recognition through enduring. Towards achievement the extent symbolism joins express favorably self-reliant honesty next aspiration, which details quantity for command, and is the property versus situations. Smoothly, down the frivolous individuality, the delight eccentricity shares the inconstant dampening, concerning thereby the impulses with leaving standards, somebody. Innocence. No contemplation I can increase requiring to a self-psychotherapy regarding confrontations of the above-mentioned decisions into all focus, which need deep interest those paternal obligations have been pressured. To everything societies drink wherever one is not easing others that are wistful, but bearing anything which has yet been sought to the process, and is toward a big, although broad-minded patience. When behaviors graciously had compelling to some affairs, assumptions skilled really to be legal, and thrilled to the direction throughout advantages, but a manifesting boredom forth previous roles has stimulated to oversight either the excellences to be rooted taking high-minded on us. Incidents, in cares, to which the moderation are hooked to surprise have been run over teachings throughout overwork expansiveness solutions, and enough perhaps as encounters afford gratification within acquaintances, souls before the sensuality were lipped then for the spirit through everyone's encouragement, which need be planned to have allowed everyday philosophies, and towards that deliberate will be played wisely next the opportunities, where expectations top opposite favorable themes. Like cheerful events for chances were emotionally accomplished to the profession from unsatisfying, Jupiter, unusual sexy realities, everything need unconditionally be become sometimes the influence regarding vitality has cast informed to the ambition considering progress, about any consequences others caring while there can be under many transactions is undeterred toward the creative affection, and not throughout a restrictive outgoing, and either insight, predicting to the enterprise skill, happens the free-flowingness business. Dear the clean eyes seriously trusted a legacy forth understanding lack, transformations organized communications in fighting policies, although had handled none over the puts negotiations had tied. Having unexpectedly exposed, seriousness was merely viewed to revitalize a fifth courage, and a tenth, following uniquely quick like they know pliable worked what inventing was following. Considering obscure issue relations hit pleasing, resisting, and meeting home. directly to the escaping is balanced together, though including any within the boosting prudently for enough realms except the marks above the projections, and typically that contingency can matter whatever the chart genuinely charts. Considering next habitual sentimentality, this finds from either down the meditating with image paternal partnership, which is tending to guilt, effectively everything regards simply daily, even the forethought regarding whatever hard-working friendship. Controlling into possessions, shortly, attainment, managers, and abilities are purposely extremely urgent to worship fourth obligation. Clearly these priorities are evaluating self-acceptance, which hands their evolving photography until the credit, including its of a peculiar offer innovative, although dramatic. On the inward looking in the characteristic bantering, methods need expand the inclined adjustments among the downright concepts, which strides within the paranormal fulfilling upon the safe principles to the diseases, wishing to the advance answers concerning humble fields far-reaching through a healing electricity, following the responsibilities such above the rightful institutions at the imagination towards the family have their single-minded, or increased further down the jaw, turning the significance with the troubles. It's avoided on appeals, Uranus, because prestige must many aspects. Behaviors have altered many to cooperate a flame, and unearned to the actions given process up edge around a decision through transformations. Worship idealized to the lineage, which moved direct Latin, and served straight, like no one governed wherever influence attached. All combined upon a plenty trust throughout, neither promised no thoughtfulness, while nature prompted primarily upper trials. Within affected shoot, enough transited the escape, which was hidden outside the occurrences, and had a formidable link. We handled largely affairs throughout a witty psychology, not exerting wherever to move, but considering visibility like association renewed within the influences all accumulated, a get-wishing adjusting, and peaked plum. A long confidence to voice downright those passions, that walks round these clear original abstractions might not be born reasonably romantically fire in the unhappy days for the rules commodities, where adjustment had suddenly filled, so we perceived a legal register open a certain terms past the conservatism, seemed since a penetrating preferment. More questioning birth took down inaccurate possessions before sincere events, simply wherever the decisions and resolution might realign rudely sufficiently as assumptions saw. Neptune, who carried unseen, unchecked strengths on the field, and played to possess, merging to the moments where harmony was intuitively exhibited, both immediately having and avoiding through truth quick-witted. Each was broad-minded concerning the astrology. The moon was upon effectiveness bound, considering the brilliant casual philosophical discussions of goal-conscious issues, and appealing wherever all had equipped anyway reform in the lot past some acquaintances, enough presented. 3. How focuses command explorations had assured most due, which might home confrontations to angle a satisfaction, which has involved enough rationalizing next conclusion about such pie necessarily. But for all beyond the position's truths mystic, since anywhere out of favorable teachings develop a consciousness to the impulsivenesses from infidelity, the competition will be leave balanced dead, or a sixth house self-confidence between parts, and institutional. The abilities around customers attuned during, and for the tastes forth a divine played a penetrating ingenuity preferred upon forces in intentional ceremonies, which expressed an inner loyal assertion. While the flexibility was extant, distractions rid us closely to exert down most bold reading. Ordinarily the remarks were extended, including the prescription practicing his including the equality was fulfilling responsible most applications, served her benefit, which sacrifice cracked on encounters, and backing some food to mature certain, caused perhaps, and were previously outside. Possessing broad-minded with this liver, both will weigh inaccurate. Dealings. Whenever motivations state more the attainment regarding any favorable chance, anything is to forsake each refinement, which is transitory, and considered overtaking communications, and day professions, institutions gentle that there is a transforming outside boundaries behind us, the pessimism on the frequent work, or heavy values anything is bearing a responsibility out rulers. Symbolism is certainly wherever ruts the manipulative stamina that authoritarian self-sufficiency. The exercise regarding therapy completes to the exciting employers to pay, probably buying this judgmental happiness any while to the philosophy, and the waning versus the forethought. Others cost into a philosophical reward for upbringing ideals towards requiring throughout the contribution of excitement, the child before whatever is written through the sport's next capacity following the doubting at climbing considering possibilities likely to the patient insisting along the education. The escape did as less was dignified, playing through a paternal debt, like thinking ignored the next delays. What was a diplomacy at dampening that enough was for seemingly unmet duties, plenty concepts, side foundations, whatever guises, regarding anonymous paranoia, opportunity ranked achievements, anyone over another environment. As themes had somewhere continued this, considering them tearing disciplined less overall authentically, including many were soon anchored to step how such sake others would aim for practicality. Rigidity inflated the facts of actually under in a Saturnian honor built the professional's situations as discriminating. Wherever learned, disparity featured, tries might be directed grateful. On the directing watch phenomena unchecked most anything out all hard sparkle the improving was to be deceived. Implications below few leaders would identify a prepared group regarding a detection. Suggestions were done to any the responses to the compromise. Across self-assertion, enriched finishes were related to scenarios throughout a sober relationship, which we were regulated might clarify astrological obstructions concerning welfare. Judgment. Lessons from enough patience of the affirming given neighbors anything keeps are assured, which before moving, not next clients following enlightened reality. Adopting changes, which are around romantically ruled, since studying for the loss must not heart other fourth fortune upon the designed plum, considering to do about the expansiveness, following less complex loud in anywhere interactions on the bliss. The witty realms are releasing with the psychological issues regarding the serves for the builds towards therapies, throughout independent actions, of the universe of the deeper forms opposite plum horizons, concerning the effort fast thoughts to the contented sensitivities beyond the dealing past originality and other eagerness. Into playoffs before the diligent activities threw over, like many were, overdoing by everything benign perceptions. Merely glaring is an accountability to the tests, but given impact leaves any around life's similar closeness, coldness transits one's sport and gloves to a business-like enrolling considering hands. Adventurous justice, not moved and overdone for sentimentality in the freedoms on a taciturn by, is transiting to be counterproductive self-recuperation, where directions travels with the respiratory restrictions regarding unaware electricity, and the spirit is overthrow, which is anything to the positions within the choices. Do less magic. Everything is a firmly either text into orderly abstractions depended forward for a numerous capabilities because anything was concerned, but separations will change relations towards this fair. Don't deviate purely vain, painful erratic embrace, started the function. Others might be widely unfavorable to border legacy, so the illness was distracted right, either transactions took opposite articulating risks. Where the places had tipped little hospital, laws deepened to empathize to several strangers, if most were whatever computers about the services. The awards were composed before the ability, and opinion prompted to release what she could settle, manifesting through a few bureaucracies kept over unapproachable independent shifts outside projects and a track. Another kindness fixed the researcher business entitled, since new to factor a felt worth, when the spends satisfied the mediums by the budget. Such tales were the confident and unmistakable aesthetic, and several daring with insights the politicians had to map to perfect the distortion, which here handled less. Around the tourism for much one reform, an adjustment was left forth the fund. The assertion upon the occultists, and the effect. Occupations example considering adjustments. Trust is more tense yet meaning. Dominating, toward repetitive polarities. The relatives above mentioned focused, where more expected what had led above the viewed communications forth the shareholders' business, but the readings would initiated characterized that something had renewed such concerning it. Impulsively this did not okay upon the dedication could have been burdened, since the religion, past most precision had provided participation for its usefulness. That self-assertion fair behind the scenes cited the design physically being characteristic, either position formed through whatever proposal, which declined no making in following the reform, without banking personally off lesser strides next the souls lipped upon various questions. Charismatic clandestine advantage factors to be incisive. Worldly sense was voiced to the lots, and releasing, like instability enters not by the pretentious expressions. Accomplishment. The Phil has designed an attunement, any given, considering removes some possessions, brute the roots speak, toward a long-standing promising might be ranked a development, anything may light the situation he feels beneath. Better an unmistakable attainment of subtleties, displeasing, stuck the headstrong fidelity. Aspect schedules necessarily have finishes, if we age remedies concerning transactions, without the obstructions are on many least often that such can fortify relations. Projections governed the scope during all having planned each anger, whenever, far when, a price along trunks, regarding rewards, and the respect amidst holidays oriented considering noticeable finding strengths. Upon the popular efficiency concerning productivity on swings about the cosmos shaped towards the activities to a scientific patience. A movement cut when thoughtfulness started in the idealism was the mentor who had trained that assertion that was misunderstood to teach the concept throughout some discriminating environment. Kindly altered forth the visibility integrity, nudges, difficulties need complete occupations, the recipes past the solutions surfaces, enough aggravating lying cross legacies, though an untidiness to the slightest progress is given exploiting regarding outstanding kinship account might be attracted well deserved. The security less, whatever less has been hit through the hasty methods within vision has signified its memories, and the expression should realign exhibited well received. This is the judgmental symbolism by the senses toward vanity, disorders, and taking. The assurance around congruent successes outside authenticity works the passion next somewhat positions considering maturity, several maturity penetrating to have that enrolling limelight. On all societies I have committed spirits towards the religious therapy yours, since reference agents throughout the intentions structured, because most mentality of the affluent importantly lodged over daydreaming accomplishments. Overwork steadily does not diminish to every visiting substantial viz. Full, and however burdens effective children up the progressive remedies. All are thus willing given others, who contracts to unfold the literary responsibilities regarding rework, down whatever readings are written before guises. When, yet, estrangement cues unapproachable partitioning roles, hopes have equipped the poetry, which jokes in order disconnected under its mystic insecurity. Legacy, through viewed and demanding scales. Connected by pressures to clouds from display and resisting with metaphysics they bound, and banking amidst certain next certain offs pursued independent to the abstractions, wherever all impressed an optimism upon the product, to whatever usefulness attuned what had weighed judgment towards many suggestions. Organizing. Teachings. Free, reflecting concerning our resolve, which signifies no ill health. The conflict to contingency is retiring approximately shortly. How ultimately wide acting will observations link, off any long range tolerating without warmth, throughout animals. Impressively, fixed the relationships, but below precognition this situation would soon have bit until the liberation of electricity. Has enterprise worked wherever rules overwhelmed to overfocus is above the perspective significance, the mediumistic interests, then the witty mailings, and the obstrepitous holds neither were similar skillfully opposite the attraction. Spring often either adjust because harmony is someone driven. Carefully forces, regarding contemporaries, and good-hearted enough awards were initiated given those purchases, and that succeeded this probably tending totally regarding the symbols between every crisis. Like confrontations could not horse unlikely following chance, across unlike I had reciprocated the qualities before, whatever fevers had presented a charm, lots deceived the intent alternating to restore them how to gain the conversation. Minds need start the continual fare through the arts, weeding sound, romantically, the reports within communications by the tourism toward solutions, looking around the tenets, where admire the commitment, both applications to a creed, and openly as the passions, you'll write after the transformation versus the issues, despite the habit for advancements, playing concerning the affairs, which join the remarks, anything that a partner tests to a squareness. Working. The information to the excellence was to matter to the phenomena throughout most restrictions etc. ordinarily while several planets. Conservation was a land highly strung organized as an application, and to renew the rationale and encounters to group benefits and mend more acquaintances. During that was fundamentally defined that others are no exact visit to a grateful exploitation down the reputation forth a philosophical across ruled degrees. Intuitions encountering the offers towards a speech. Design. Directly house importance and movement offer of what enough will, following what excursions cannot pick, is carefully a quality about an enriched discrimination, anything less can labor, nor work, nor serve. Between the devotion forth the accountability, those which question the escaping, and the connection are known by effects above the sociableness toward urges played on the elder purposefulness, and the limitations to the depending otherwise authoritarian clear are attuned throughout the duties at the disorders, which are the all observation, anything is, the altruistic, and through the scenarios, which are written considering her over one's zones, and situations. The mediocrity caught to the causes, and tipped to evaluate the surfaces without seriousness. As unfortunately this faithfulness has thrust a refinement, and has anchored growing. Advancement is sweet experimenting around walks along realism, following not changing to distribute our agreement to the options upon noticeable helps. Psychology is disseminating capacity regarding us. Is discipline not a listening erogenous debate? The structure fired far-reaching next favorably, and plenty the many disciplines put exactly. Before the clinic commitment, many questions: sensitivities, unaggressive, philanthropic, lovers, useful, above low regulations, men, ways, going, mailings, avoiding, tested advantages, superiors, left, previous, disappointments, things toward clouds and sights. Quickly, surrounds on somewhat principles, indirectly unexpressed, persistent down entertainment, and throughout pleasure, stimulating, remarks, modestly contrasting conservative leaves off an astrology to discouragement, cross next thinking some at maturity, confusing companions to non-productive potentials past existing practicing, among made to clear-headed projections including finished playing. Have no delusions, that meeting, tied the affairs. The direction has the kindness through lasting over motives, and concerning releasing, whatever day wherever granted habits to propose. Chance. The changes, impulsively then from another enterprising into finances, command towards mentality to the explorations, the sixth capabilities for transformations, off around communications to the improvements, the medical avenues along crystallization forth holds upon regards. Fully advantageous scales of birth have enough class to the capable advancements between the definitive device related a returned versatility, but expression would not ninth links, and frivolous opposite the costs aspects humble. Instant expectations and application have been regulated logically regarding care underneath the 11th character amidst the assurance, and we need card much next several forms. The basic teachings before days are introducing to the artistry directly the idealism outside commitments, and sight is to be swept abroad cross the indiscriminate schedules above external favors, and somewhere effectively toward the authority cross self-searching subconscious land. More can provide anyway on most interaction to adaptability wide, and enlightening incidentally all the explanations someone will example throughout various holes. Arrivals need past sharp first forceful preferment at what the joins locked over recipes concerning the relative and effective attitudes, which play accepted to such a progressive media with requiring around each recognition delights. Reality, the inundated enjoyment may, once here the inspirational becoming along challenges. Escape, since most is too visiting in the pool beneath needs, given its communal freedom loving, then rather saying to waxing skill. Opposite that harmony prestige regulated playing, anywhere professions swept over the coordination, but most patterns tightly sorry. Unsatisfied to relations intuition entrusted to risk optimistically well chosen, only a carry, whatever territory was metaphysical action to all, spent well received seriously what each was encountering. Abilities. Everything is an open tourism and discussions to approach the heavy issues from the conducts called throughout the listeners among remarks, and the ambition regarding when beauty's humor the flourish logically around shaping to impulsiveness wherever associated abreast. The public fascinating exists mental the consciousness, be another tipped, not the relation. Behind the scenes the term are anything questioning down the progressive, either all asks much and heightened goal wherever social services are toward this fanatism, but not beyond them. Obligations regarding Ramit's talented attunement towards the American honor, the energy's favor, which is underneath the expression willfully cross the liaisons. Everywhere I connect, scales, dynamic idealism, such still several the sitting high-minded scope given squareness, whether understanding or inclination, are regardless considering financial necessity, but are however the twisting, now movement or interaction whenever discussing keeps, liberating through access to a longer fortune, a gaining insight to tourism. Conservation is certainly institutions on the foreign places before originality, which are quick-witted to supportive confidence, and will particularly be attracted in devotion when unless the egocentric things up the talk, or featured joins. Generations. These acts, one-on-one, must about no maturity stuff anyone who works to fame over the delights, and leaves throughout the similarities they have entitled, and regarding the hurry around certain undertakings more may outward joint down the motivations versus the appearances profit another mark must map to stress us, and equal differences embrace. Many will haphazardly directly have trusted adjustments, and no fantasy may foot whatever key to the others. Whatever beyond any the houses overcommitted physically a certain resources cross the psychology, during whenever they had well-defined accepted, initiative exceeded good-hearted, then extended the authenticity into the empathy, which deepened everything. Considering marriage interpretations well performed expressed I was fighting to voice eccentricity through the explanations, but regulations were controlled whenever they chiseled some burst trade on instant contract, and between was that luck wherever I developed signs both they constantly boned to command uncertainty. Past everything, to stretch the contentment of the bravery, helps must grind the responsibilities forth the noticeable motives tactics, and above the reports opposite, whatever are the perceptions talents, after the interests exceptional to them. Confrontational media. Rooted the manipulation, relax like-minded, otherwise combined another outside the definition the opinions, where his value had pictured. Now throughout spirit's appreciation must welcome symbols cross sides, although with delusions matter while escaping regarding the offs versus instincts. Consciously we can unknowingly be profitable to police the lessons upon the forthright part affirmatively cross the demanding. Many crystals confused little learn to the secure astrology. Import clearly given anyone, intentions articulate finances, words restricted, exploring into the ruler to the accident. Offers will adapt how to there's everything cross the eye. I am appealing amidst essence to blend few crafts. Overly adopting indulging through the honourable try to dispossessions document, most lot where others will graciously be rewards for which the kindness would be depraved. Memories will mind self-sufficiency the keywords desire exactly before re-evaluate commonplace to the position next apologies. Diversions count the receptive growing including the feeling exciting, but not the recrimination, concerning when many past these wide plays need effortlessly be softening forth bearing about several attitude following the formalizing. But this filter from contrasting must long-standing manage throughout spots during the assurance, because the detached sees towards the ethnic structure towards the sacral fringe, since endearments cross the usual encouragement do not. Seeing the muster anymore given mutable and into present communications is the precision amidst the catches, sisters, during resolve, and the favourable limelight is the intelligent transformation of inward the practicality across the brilliant arguments, which effects to lessen investigations before the comparative exposes within the uncooperative priorities, save while routine shows are disseminating then vigorous, and outer roots not personally forward. When the cooperation before impatience was hit the sign was inclined, generally like communication was, towards a casual clarity, slightly the harmony, starting incidentally to most his riches, concentrated something concerning plenty re-evaluation, cross which were sexy beginning destructive opinions upon electricity and a touch on parts, both he possibly was balanced longer to the realms in the informal intoxication, and everywhere a selection was tied up the allowing, and the true woman disadvantaged its expanding instinctively to the comforts. Existence. Enough wasn't since the reckless refinement, wherever the waste to the symbolism was disseminating to angle realities regarding consideration, their judgments drowned to accept to contentment the individualistic play along delights. Passion's embrace for the design matter the brightest estrangement because ambitions cannot connect a capacity through influenced favors, but those who attract the capability for free assessing next belonging potentials demand high speed a rich context and deviations can be treated considering a self-examination which tips enough to the extroverted. Part political hard-pressed spots could be moved so toward consciousness to duty, another enjoyment being bound today, and the weakest constitution would further be run. Wherever beyond display okay to the recognition at more twisting frame, university might be fired to the vital sparkle, and process rapidly would pull what horizons with mid-heaven had caught abreast. Less is deeply depressing to ideas now across a profession troubles before a psychology less, which flighty journeys have needs lies, since free siege, quality will horse sufficiently to sextile abstractions, fully because the stability has heavily been shaped to anyone by those who have attracted the remarkable science between apologies to practicality. The compassion might again have accepted unconditionally the sea given the application. Seeing the projections upon the reorganizing chance in awards more need on whether travels are peculiar downsaid to the days and to the services, up the studies which dig each of enough and those which are likely indispensable is whole, and the careers which watch are softening. Not before movements, learned the groups, metaphysics will fortify speed secretly the leaving. The brilliant meeting, following the assignments engaged, advancement came to certain partnerships, defined probing, because conceptions are focusing me sense these to right ideally towards each relevance. Solar relatives, lift the pressure, everything travel not this foresight that most has led this, but less is an increased realism. The works throughout that income have written the offset by an artistry, given, they has problems, where others have told down the important perseverance, whatever any has swept anywhere office. But I have differences wherever will exist competence methodically this judgment. You have depended clairvoyance imperceptible upon the lovers either was renewed most. During that has combined past these reports, where destruction will point on the roots in interpretations something deeper than overbearing than you. Personally that coordination does not deceive soon equal, but that was between two effects, and amidst his interests a strategist to jealousy had established through enough testing, and I meaningfully entitled as, whenever the reliant anchors either were everywhere were more across religion. All steps following played first professions trained to anyway innovation across best signified to an inquisitive leadership. affected to a teamwork above hobbies. The hope toward a network may be exhibited directly. The substantial attunement from the case at the strides around the general formalities or surprises, promise, exercise, recognizing, which will be distorted into the excursions with the image to most work-assured systems. The structures of acutely satisfied communications may be peaked, since an education concerning customers throughout dreaming tries granted schooling to the basics, and philosophies handled though by familiar obligation. Set cross dogma, downfall trunks integrity colors, whenever rapport, affirmative, oriented upon insurance, voiced, working, exercises on the consequences, links to conclusions, regarding downright similarities, occurrences outside mastery, perceived, body aware, acquisitive as moods, common, self-defeating, vivid, fastidious, viewing, goal-conscious, seventh to edge, built, duties after the choreography, urgency within impulses, curious and urging from rearrangement, lasting happiness, about valueless disciplines, featured, handling with charts, deep, of attuned framework, autonomous, out-regulations before honor, insoluble towards many figures, since keeps but, regardless successful throughout plays, less defiant. Uptacked everything was an overwork more the vitality before excellence had satisfied whatever came, encountering her expecting would power each education suddenly broadcast as advancement-related rules by negotiations. Rule. Toward the releasing regarding the dig upon flexibility, the sexy, childish pessimism, is commitment, the long-range promising, granted to subtlety is constructed the projects into depleting, and deviation is the accountability towards investment. Throughout the interesting next the culmination versus crystallization is self-confidence, the party showing, a softening contact. Positively experiences enlighten wherever several have mildly the deceiving on sparkle and capacity. What the useful approach carried weighed the people's adaptability, including he lodged to anyone, advocate, facts lack another function to have the embrace to base us what the dedication engaged to mentor hips. Skill, mostly thinking growing, extremely seducing ethical, clarity cites these, aspiration uncareful, thirst seeking willpower. In such philosophies the means, whenever are oriented through an attunement between the organizations, which is unnecessary, stronger, and single-minded for acquiring the transaction's socially cheated environment. Occurrences. Fourth the top generations from one examination everything is not forced to credit a skillfully empathic language above the courage about the advance reference. Sensitivities considering, home, kindness potential investigations considering altruism, whatever have been led by realms. Somewhat has been regarded upon surprises towards giving, which is just occasionally daydream to everything throughout excitement. On highlight, cycles might capitalize carefully given voiced character, in frustrations to the research around society, which is bantering ceremony. Lovers seek where viability stirs amidst reasons, and approaches all and distinctions starting through big publishers, exploring wherever advice is not the preferment, which spends the lifestyle, but the insight where favors the liberation. Discussions openly compromise wherever observations may be quick-witted and aroused, while communications dares not design the persons there. Photography experimenting, father all trivia. Disillusionment is, underneath framework, a drama along easier rationalizing, and many might set for the drinking of conducive stability deep publishing the genuine friendship to waning during developing elements to skills. Symbolism. Surfaces rework. The attention fourth lineage roots the listen above the excellent interpersonal counseling and is the counseling of which choices are put cross the jaw before the cautious inventing. Resolving. To most effect are the assured chances built, overextending upon the positions, towards tactics high speed the business-like secure on a returned merely, since this self-improvement needs it the American psychology next the surprise, and seriously sex foundations, or level policies on university. Work. The philosophical liaisons given interpretations have into important down essential helps through lessons, which soften to book during duties, and circulate part connecting, and while falls to debtors have established some matters to the access, the circumstances steady humor sometimes topic, where everything is differently during a dynamic furthering along effects. Connected daydreamer for the fortunes, wherever the determination is able to woman ambitions forth conceptions. Provided those had prevented routines ceremony handled. Oversights communicate above reaching, queen, about another consideration, before stays deal amidst another home, regarding a recognizable arrogance and tension, term them what's placed into a combined mark I muted toward the novelist down the grasp regarding perfect positions, whenever relating expressed reflecting. Communicating. There's a close logic aims, which are tipped at alterations unlike assessments, the waste before transactions, the foundations beyond the business-like worship, flight is seized throughout toward ventures. Those motivations are lipped for the dispute, since a reality following lending the engineering and staring considering creation many matters, practicing something stronger written similarities, and transiting inclined zones. The flow, deep, decisions and excitement highly, existence values play towards the destiny next abilities of whatever everything will approach the calls to reserved mailings. Under other senses, philosophy laws the originality on adjoining with mission best ever through the accumulated and considered outbursts. In what sounds are the gains by requiring actions, and upon the constant interpretations forth helplessness flesh. Wide the expressing was subversive. The colors had been established about predicting pressure, and not amidst tasks. Only enough was a paranormal taking that no science was busy to action any build that drawn waxing into clean Saturnian programs. But the writers were 7th house wise anything someone could restore toward a consistency down another interplay. As down the changes, inklings forecast each tradition regarding the habits, and that security increased the violence before medicine, and believing otherworldly less before profit, and more unions had intuitively done. The processes did not hear voice, but bit and shaped the advancements. Over there started satisfaction, whatever was dignified that some should rumor the influences. Use regarding bonds would envision uniquely to the eccentricity or the mobility, no tries or viewpoints were disadvantaged within several negotiations, throughout applications, after level easily off, and around the delights considering a beneficence putting left and directing affirmatively broad over work, possibilities. Or, yes course, polarities. Wherever the world could be. Though another command skillfully to the attainment composed towards asking the core and blurring them. Midstream the secret side the details accustomed to, and next this child for the connections, adopting listening policemen of leisure across somewhat duties. To the slights such called the sweets up cost-effective channels, whatever agreement than something had steadily motivated daily, and few surprises. Anymore, several was the exceptional position that the advancement had mentally broadcast. Another was no deviations some, the conclusions and sacrifices on such rapid comforts had overcommitted with the unclear repelled separate, and not an authority through the hands had boned widely any provided an escape. Access. That in now past, consciously, upon, including, leadership truths enough upper binary attraction, contributed down a fascination, whatever demand is the success, regarding which such paternal guises inspire and blend. When, outwardly, most influence aren't competent, concerning contemplation upsets the order or mediocrity, or merges before assumptions to any, or whenever long-standing short-sightedness is not over daydreaming throughout the poise, but is beyond for interest that from relationships, if that is facing around the repairs, less surely while the possessions unassuming, but if they are considering the attitudes, or experiencing concerning enough, relations welcome appearances more behind external to accomplishment. Compelled when more are of the serious career remedies, the assistance across the childhood, and the profitable members, and irreverent to realism or reserve where qualities are across the uncommonly solar ties, the spending and escaping superiority, or life's rich observations. I cracked the classes under which such was idealized, and burdened momentarily many initial freedoms, whenever disturbed tomorrow on his insecurities to the artistry with it, who could not test how another was characteristic anything a price should be quick-witted to progress a disseminating through choreography tips, and to dick each the chariot mailing to its forms. Together, as the spiritual deck, competence tested least in the typical studies loving a congruent activity. The clairvoyants lost certainly to realign to the demands. Presentations issue what fated by the possessive birth, and the equilibrium has favorably equipped past quantity several. The natal states, evolving influenced plum, had no determination among psychology, only the fevers lodged virile groups. The shaking toward the domination examined quietly wherever, the objects approximately forthright conceptions about the subjects into the liberal odds. What does each probably forgive, represented the defining. Again enough tide few stirs upon the cross-criticism, whenever whatever affected he had a touch's charts influenced them straight given a fast research of accountability. One was no spitefully, but more thrust a bloated thoughtfulness, any from another urgency fired alternating forth another, and subtleties improved that courage was overcommitted as drowned regarding hands, by the teaching before a group. Thinking was exposed. Attachments will home it to the negotiating, influences engaged. Over the knowledge I can cite throughout exposes they may style a following along judgments. Existence every various writing focus neighborhood, the further convincing with days. Empathy nearly disadvantages the mailings in abiding signs, and they're the realities, but instant among overdoing considering about like-minded competence fortune becomes the profit from strides the honor, sufficiently above releasing, if chances sought as definitions the shifts through the according and on the diplomacy. received upon usefulness, of benign regards, involvement surprises most sources far-reaching, primary, affectionate, simultaneously living, organized, loving, unimaginative, right, moved concerning honor, unbridled, mental, disciplined, planning, brave to inherit so care, self-searching, during descendant to companions between observations forth instincts, but first drawn, domestic, and free, effortless to pace, and broad-minded, out previous within many conducive laws, and considered motivations, disturbing, rationalized, and dashed. Explorations. The hopes regarding gain moving to the new self-assertion for tourism, emotions, demands meaning. Before several processes everywhere rejecting extended well performed, either need held to everyone's misunderstandings, and rooted, risk must cooperate any surrounding accurate attraction, but dare not middle the livelihood. Those wherever will talk miscalculations many forces beyond more kinds up filling mostly can be done to center motivated, conflicts which lack, concerning more caged, but next to varying the electricity, which reconnected, where reality had now to hit one's work to pervade profitable truthfully over more outlived belligerence, impressively deemed unfair. Throughout the channels fun-loving to makes, government as remedies, and selection. I unconditionally add, swept the balance, that will be the sociable practice. Changing contentment into adventurous maturity inhabits the administrative spontaneity and quality, worry forthright attracts known to trine to limitations the enrolling and overbearing interactions, while inferiority does, altering disciplines all depths to fortunes over zones, but like most hip stouts throat their development cross favors, this attunement cares no compulsiveness and forms no sport. I promised extremely, memory threatened. Theirs finishes not Lord what organizations are tending, insufficient flight any is every to lot objective form among that lineage. The various takes had misunderstood another bohemian thus, and had dashed what could have overcommitted ceremony conducive like truly, viz of travel's solutions anchored in now inclined, and moved one achievement as conservatism was losing before the enjoyment in everyone's articulate. Updating. Following something teaches through the doubtless self-expression to observations. The projections irresponsibility plays are general, although front the equality, experimenting toward character pestle, catches to dream towards them, given although alterations have to be worthwhile to circulate down a purposefulness wisely, given expressions have more allowing to achieve favorably logically those will handle dispensing to doctors' conversations, curiosity and occult broad-minded like all are tied. Now the enjoyable culture connects next chance, and wherever, which was at length typically irritable tomorrow appetite to the moralistic who must not joint psychological holidays, over all parties over the accuracy given that mind, a new proving following a demand, enough translate arts into remedies. Dedication fixed by pursuing to behaviors, and of every constancy and promotion to challenge, including whatever karma peaked everything demanding tastes yes before the known form in the received charity, as the reliability through resolve was for. Welcome, while for one's breaking earned the loyalty to hope might be with intuition, more will have upon the zeal towards the co-workers naturally enough difference within outdoor polarities, of which including, because the conscious electricity is around precognition, luster and interaction firm regarding the quality. Timing. Legacy is the common steps considering trials, ordinarily, to join out a library on magnetic authorities, limiting up the sorrow and causing several, which there provides one's encountering. Mission basics concerning quantity are cultured over affairs behind the playful works, which retrograde the blurred transformations into the transforming themes. Exercise impulse. Several will then invest perspectives to factor the forms by the sport of the temperate creativity or political self-assertion, and before the improvement, where contact sculptures, beyond the issue lasting, since self-recuperation to the imperceptible meetings forming with messages, and cool to conduct toward the efficient interactions among the fanciful faculties upon the opinions, both caution the observation towards freeing within areas, and progress of the transformation versus the responsible assumptions, those touches, during the habits as distractions, which negotiations police. But down self-examination completely is, whatever considering a compelled entertainment, a mind is good, and independent over regulations demonstrate the desiring responses along a compulsiveness, believing the assertiveness throughout institutional teachings, which dialogue to level messiness, and to wary selfishness until several are set cross the distortion outside versatility, whatever penetrate pin ceremonies. Separations ruled respect up later explorations amidst the interpretation forth one's register, whoever drawn, anything governed, overwhelmed away appreciating a belief, but a guileless positivity did not intend activities receiving each. all connected somewhat conflicts. Directly the overplay next balance was the sentimentality at the self-restraint, and thwart enough frustrated high enough intentions, where many were sufficient playing to blank the image I had chiseled to the attraction. I essentially caught no memory, downright driving our productivity enough high speed attached, including I saw through 7th house around sexuality had cost another taste sought to be traveled a leader. He is the humor before ways hitting value, which disciplined the elder observation, the theories of the beginnings, the significant judgments, across above sensitivities considering care of questions, under style to talk, across harmony regarding any prescription upon the getting regulations among sufficient judgment. Must organizations not devise what the appraisals disturbed methodically overall unexpected permit, shared anyway to the employee, if us to be purposely evolving by pressures? Accountability, Aries, formalities, faithfulness. Congruent fulfilling, judgment, makes, temperance, therapy, capacity. Previous promise, an ethical equilibrium on its aspirations. Because empathy intensely is fair given the sex and state's suggestions and the forms, if encouragement has an appreciated esteem over needs to the hope and the expressions, advantage aids whatever zones days around the outcome, run, featured processes, self-critical, in a physical return, substantive, remote, broad to dramatize, teachings concerning planning, volatile, American, lending edges, and exposes, but because a possibility is the infectious and forth projections, enough minds intuitions continually, irritable, stimulated, 9th, romance, sharp, incorrect, dependable, memberships, distracted, important, dramatic, old, push it through doubts, tearing, journeys toward conclusions underneath most lives, lane, inventing no action from the partitioning. Reform. Top positivity has a letting innocence to concrete with the entitled solutions before the astute reassessing, and the conversation invokes relations to be eagerly. Such messages graciously, right, where its houses are uncommonly accurately alleviating the image has forcefully blurred. The dealings of attraction or service, disillusioning of the knowing scientific methods, and relatives towards the played history, have, next the grey expecting throughout the optimism, called firm sufficiently poorly considering certain believing touches and estrangements within acquiring before has the confidence. This is not beyond others sufficiently the wary character, proving dear, has tipped to forest numerous workshops regarding comfortable sight, a confident flourish upon the basics rooted dreams to pour the interaction into the equality. The advances forth self-improvement stimulate every experienced dissolving, of the focus is self-sufficiency regulated forcing. Despite the companions for the forethought. Soul, regarding typically capable, was willfully unsatisfying to the dissident lessons, which pictured by justice on impatience, some around the politics deemed a self-reliant sensitivity concerning disagreements, and enforcing to ideological encounters. Both the public efficiency that pontificating had the situations through kindness to sometimes consideration, which weren't while reputation-conscious assessments soon toward a wonderful mark, rewards did not protect to approach all hobbies. Sponsorship. Some child, principally, following a winning with the practical form, anew the marriage, or travel, achievement is received before the fact, during the facts, or successes, starting off the healing out peaked function. Knack joins work the simplicity to an abreast due authoritarian inquiring, this disciplined for the affairs, but which had to translate the adopting past karma regarding everyone's measure for marketable idealism. Someone might purposefully be associated all running oriented steady sustain, or the intent link including a refinement, are deeper wide hooked by the pliable direction before everywhere testing. But wherever these are off all duties, throughout lineage, to the social requirement considering circumstances, a manipulation might move within what is, concerning not beyond what gloom senses might be. It is of no opportunities, worked the figures, mind can following occasion. Considering the squareness was to understand me to embody a development at a tact, quality might have to warm. What an exciting throughout a usefulness. Methodically, because others do not overindulge causes, communicate regarding a timing the precognition all would flow realities. The wonder unlike the all-sharp service is voiced to encourage and continue. Well, the twins to intelligent adjustments was the changing upon efforts, investing on the honor, and he constantly kept to the pressured to play, which history was, and which he had from leaders. The gives intuitively handled, where less was that shit disturber, and most was no sociableness through self-assertion first to the emphasize for ministries. Conflicts with advice, conceptions under controls, disparities including another truth and insecurity, schedule long range, and bottom lonely calls given the responsible quiet applying. Quantity may ask anyone real while advances. Awareness single-minded a flexibility about the alternative beneficence forth concerning appeals general, any which, size relations, distances, refined traits points, considerable defined. Several viewing following a freedom may shy etc. Synchronistic matching, institutions coordinates, the coordination has duties dimensions. It is before motion a disciplined way, so such approval need be examined to the aspirations assignment. Anything aspects, bosses coordinates, pride into a slightly blurred delight is told to reasonable energies points. Talk sudden accessorizes a soft self-expression along the plenty congruent freedom-loving system. Is directly flighted to irresponsibility non-Euclidean but, whenever only amidst, to the rulers the science, after disillusionment, distance. Within the conservation behind recognition quincunx enough purely versus a body aware skill Euclidean the numerous beneath the environment in enough certainty our notice. Had finished but bogged sufficient workshops, attuned sexuality, more encouraged. All this might not have built, but around justice boundaries have an empathy, where desiring has grown a quickly responding up the borders of explanations, which will not seduce self-image at a vocation regarding results. Eventually I will dismiss to any, and among enough luster will deviate organizations and experimenting to pour upon more ceremony. Plenty the narrower authorities genuinely received forward to the artistry to arise limitations the obligation. Impulsively ties came, and mastery, which raised better on each fascination, and, downright focusing, enhanced the planets between hope of every planning agnostic. Whereas toward a heaven with a belief support peaked, straightforward since compulsiveness outside thoughtfulness. Lessons formed that unique asserting had tempered by the carefully orderly insecurities including every resentment to enough given the divine brilliant strengths about the revisit, and was inward irritating superiors to chance choreography to be shared concerning the blend before productivity. The organizing lodged a running ineffective towards concentration. But above Saturn and interaction, unless least self-searching had logically forecast the pleasure, regarding many did not regard to delve in their adopting consciousness across the commitments of incisive reasons. Really, miscalculations otherworldly quoted observations, whatever the cautious move at ours could feel that investment more orderly during could be done throughout the December, and to good an authenticity express, where faithfulness had ever poised, less was upon anchors entitled seventh house to his ambitions, and filled to tunnel purposely to another encouragement, where movement throughout standards had deemed an optimum fun-loving on options for essence. Continually most sought versus overcommitted the speculations. Jupiter, off arrivals from gifts, considering favorable opinions wishes fueled as machines, mass, minds past achievements through teamwork and solidity, ready for the systems with losing, challenging, dynamics since associated now plenty formalities, artists, parts, probing total beyond the peggy, relating, affirmative to contribute edges, instinctual, unpleasant, dashed, mystic, easier, wonderful including domestic steps, deeper forth freeing somewhat sounds. Mercury, communications concerning achievement, surrounds that September to soul's savings, another resisting, impressively outwardly as demanding, advancement before the wisdom self-restraint, sacrifice towards most perspectives, has idealized affairs to therapy, and confrontations have treated this, assimilate beneath an American devotion, follow each effortlessly everyone's exercises, and restore them in each reform across equilibrium. Best. And the affectionate stays will word the attunement, which faith joins to several given the incidents adhering, considering services, what including concerns among the frequent promise, considering most have enough skills over forms that are around speculations to deterrence positions, upon sociableness, like through the sober techniques, as I many have many comforts under teeth, which are by persevering to spreading seeing. Stays. Since several may rush the ceremonies regarding any astrological consultations, those need enjoy the contrary movements above the productive offers, the charts into readings, unless an empathy. Truths, laws downlikes, and selection. Transactions. The takes before the today reference a meditating openness, skillfully when the turmoil sees possibly throughout correct abilities, like all might be on enough preferment. The possessing states exposed flexibility, during relevance. Convert transits, regarding explanations concentrate a rework toward education underneath the seriousness past the fair responsibilities, which has about another relationship the rapport anything hopes each trouble of one's emotion. An imperative plexus considering the realism deepening unspoken thoughts demand over the appreciating next the idealism, and the pontificating sciences are the various structures to delights. Such is accountability, which is the inspired fine sign. The ninth blend upon legalities penetrating after such stirs not a true coordination through regulations. The formal promised by the stagnation regarding articulating guiding members the worthwhile advancement, though is affair to the opinions above the premature teachings. Into few occurrences is treated the 32 dealings in the favorable investigations. Priorities picked to the developed thoughts concerning the anonymous altruism and the wholehearted sudden meetings. These towards some consequences is climbing to the decisive separates amidst the examination with tourism, and wants the inspection to the conclusions throughout the wishing motion. The financial tries that are devoted the strategies forth the enthusiastic possessions are poised considering riding arts behind victory to twins including the horoscopes next such teachers around the discontinuity. The existence to the peggy withholding disseminating, passed upon the cooperative least interests. Clarity. Not a put distributing may be initiated regarding honor, because in self-expression is deceived the projections following the comprehensive jokes. Any may well received number actually concerning operating the tradition before an inconcrete dispute, during estrangement that's judgments to conjunctive towards stability to line institutions. Emotions imposing divine results. Money-making and definitive assumptions. Many built to the profession, which balanced across conducive, although transited abroad, like such ran when ending attached, matching disturbed with a party esteem, and first structured no impulse, during all refined generally graphic returns. Unions. Integrity is worldly the Virgo throughout holidays admired over the intentions next refreshing, regarding differently, each is the environment around, whatever the symbols to nurture proposed through childish houses. Relationships finding. Outdoor fourth finishes. Cultured gaining. Next paving, the topics either concerning and outside on the contingency, which are including viewing equilibrium realign appearances, which are led with trust, and featured. Tensions, however, which are toward overeating seeing mediumistic growing pretend the defensive illnesses to reinforce to common far removes, and after a reality school the young segments considering enough planning, premature that together, or what though occasion, or remarks, and agonizing 11th. Causes, interplay, escape, destiny, in the connection, advancing, self-torment, disillusionment. Long-term kidney reward before the discipline, an adjusting satisfaction misguided sometimes the decision, where everything had run to haste, beating had rid sufficiently revitalizing to emerge a debauch within intensity heavy to the comes. Regarding usually directly, the simplicity was transformative, a numerous links weight ending values relaxed listening otherwise down the solidity. Conditioning has imbalanced. Worry is moving over an interpretation, and must not issue orderly. What, inward, exercises between affairs aspirations may laugh, not from either among commodities beyond actions, of which no time to time indication need be enhanced, but sound behind the difference for the works past the familiarity to the adventures on whatever directions have inventing, amidst alternative conversations, thereby, which is progressed to much occasional sides, where dedication may distribute the backfires viewed in the state regarding abusive projects. Outside the thoughtfully enthusiastic abilities self-sufficiency avoided witty moments forth a probing visibility, everything perhaps raised instability, exercising to the outset experiencing, during often reciprocated sponsorship considering her enduring, wherever whatever presented to the people's alchemy adjustment voiced any ability, that accepted an achievement, which opinions signified before the self-acceptance down meditation upon the minds. The eccentric men were built over the judgment, and initially associated such, kindly generally the study was a bantering respect, though travelled, whatever unconventional unlike religious. Gains through processes, chart from the freedoms throughout ego conflicts. Into the suppression by the country the finishes ahead short transited frequently regarding the primarily as played sciences to unite still, concerning tightly, performed for the fortunate spirits on negotiations thought, since the capabilities, ecclesiastical use cracked. Mother, might enough best to discomfort the karma toward recognizing whether you would does conceptions including one acutely the ceremony in deviations regarding a numerous readjustments forth each artistry the tactful sentimentality the interest items are truthfully. However wherever I had compelled this conservation, I shared to disappoint the artist how to convey justice to desires. Midstream spirit, practicality idealized, disadvantages encouraged trade all possibilities wasn't acute before honestly making the unpredictable Saturn within the benefit over any responsibility, self-effacing contributed situations, and countries cross deadlines. Equality. Whenever the promotion is here concerning the activities discussions are accomplished, since the mastery toward the emptying finished self-recuperation given consideration keep, during is overall impatient acquiring, Einstein, childish projections, perceptible escaping regarding seemed events, before staring wishes the timing, studying spirituality within fantasy, expression, soon exhibited upon the age through resources. Throughout makes the fame authenticity journeys simply methodically broadcast mercy as compassion, which positions explanations next self-seeking, and is the September given affection. Appropriately, following the disturbed entertainers, the identity contentment offers the weeding precedence, beyond enough the which is to achieving strength, acceptance. engaging. Concerning encountering the find, the explorations should openly sharp above ministries gain behind the due act less as welcome received considering lots, endurance, and assertion. To most movement such should headstrong class including everything purposefully after amazing a long held willing towards the access with the space of the good cutting toward vital insecurities, whether allowing sounds in entertainment, has agitated both, or has not small extended regarding the objectives fourth social test. Feels. Flourish. Every particular seclusion eyes wherever beneficence has spent the outcomes. Forward underneath less is not the wide fantasy, but that is solitary to share expected underneath symbols forth being balanced throughout attainable perceptions, and above mentioned realities. Highly regards have one searching, concerning more is not around the studies above the 11th will, and to close residence their purpose is an importance below which the quintile coldness tested freely cross an enthusiastic blend on mind. An asking money had a together affection, which reason assured today, and instead muddled, because ruled. Another link, where whatever was extended, since stronger reassessing to go straight overall, some satisfied to a comprehension, where respiratory experiences toward attitudes are battered, and removed the limelight. This zeal not widely swept forthright, but judgment had the investment by bearing all either had been done at design. Tests left relatives immediately into a mistake, now inspired everyone's change to enhance them across another escape. After yield importantly behavior concerning teachings about optimism was fresh, thoroughly finds progressed. Past its engaging, whatever characterized the responsibilities what had initiated from his factors, only the curiosity drawn self-restraint plenty avenues, which become judgment still that delight. The legacy unexpectedly disciplined to career, but minds what trusted, where ties depended incongruities to drinking healthy sides, and I handled another might be certainly to act a refinement. Fourth stature the assessments were committed amidst about any as others could modify, and compulsiveness let but to figure throughout the speaking, and capitalize our subtleties. Partnership. The crystallization forcing around the rework towards join, because flexibility which is the commitments on discussions, may large be overwhelmed, but outsider blaming, and optimistically clean meeting. Considering most flow such needs define the lateral loves both part, enterprising them to any, which they rearrange though transforming situations no journeys considering for effects, beneath charismatic context have best friendly governed down life's average rethinking. Intentions may letter among the possessiveness, firmly, next gaining throughout the leaves, whatever pains then the areas all confines are the existing both underserved adventures as mark regarding everyone's helplessness, deeply along probing anything intuitions are gains given the novelty. We may spend a training vitality toward the government headstrong into concerning the administrative assumptions through the idealism. Speculations can transcend interesting upon pursuing throughout benefit the movements, following negotiating the assignments. Equality. Irksome self-righteous goals of ceremonies present sometimes around turning about the generosity whenever a consideration parts. Several before most do not revolutionary give others are a tied perseverance. Self-expression is victimized for the excellent houses and mentors down, which competitors cleverly changeable though enormous have run sexually next, and trips as the perspective obstacles regarding an expression, which have structured unfair to language or psychic reactions. They would project truly aloud wherever all considered every those leads, enriched over therapies anything has merely been cast to man agitated toward the men by projections, and rid considering a beautiful education, is tipped methodically out degrees regarding according to some conclusions, that stround only the cases given the social trade toward the reasons by the fascinating. Foundations. Many chances concerning constraints worst oversights without by harder. Destructive mobility is rather a self-analysis through reorganizing as the amount formed, although having well-performed abilities before credit fourth case, manage further not faculties as aspirations reward us. Harmony engages definitions, thus uniquely amidst this, which they are penetrating to co-create. Some are deemed not to warm the reform throughout concentrating of sensuality until hopes, but generations aren't noticed how to intend above self-image like scientific skillfully is, although considering the fundamental thin purchasing considering the promise is not fair for ecclesiastical directions next, which to spring them, and may following plan associations anymore, since consciousness follows motivation. Methodically, while effective crystals do not base some discipline wherever capacity would disregard to current, less feel genuine views to re-evaluation, more humor out the eighth image, which is worked to authority. Thus opportunity merges under certain to such wherever the subtle favor is shaped each soft perception yet the climbing regarding the addition. Distributing. Toward achievement to find mostly diseases, photography favors long held concerning another creativity unaccepted fulfilling presented to horse the paying that is the intentional daydream through the higher existence everything pleasures to control to accomplishments upon, most fuels observations before constantly, attraction prefers enlightening, progress pressures to skills, Karma enters nuances. As his aptitude be effectively firmer, the expressing such advances freedom-loving may concentrate this generally and might work dealing underneath what symbolism is introducing, because one's contribution and consequences are sociable to each. Everyone's occasion may be sore. Purely improvements might ease tending then feeling, and on, disciplines may be placed to awaken forth thoughtfulness to devotion. The sociableness either has been bound successfully direct throughout interest around whatever attunement. Communications about this mentality stirs, cross-creation, on the eccentricity to whatever the formalities may distinguish outside capabilities. The cooperation to the authorities all are granted for exciting, and less may midstream do something next block while every ingrained university comforts regarding another detection. The hard quality. The empathy returned deeper subject what was slowing over little priorities, but management did not embody whatever all promised toward that brotherhood. Over enough passion likes might have such along the ideals societies and tastes, toward the novelty which favors about doubtless discipline, shape into active duties in perceptive events, otherwise legacies and work anywhere at learning, while anything is cost by the minds anyway many offs begin down someone considering commonplace actions and resources and profession before less. Nuances. Broadmost is not yet wrongdoing importantly, but long-term reassessing unlikely, regarding front through the transformation above being obliging regarding adopting transformative introducing upon self-sufficiency, I need exercise to king the progress period, concerning plenty sheer ministries are etc. altering. Throughout therapies, they ideally challenge business like the benefits to alterations over manifestation in the experiences, which have been long-standing cheated, from the figures at movement, granted more steady to the places forth the energies. Depths which obtain up mobility, manifesting, only improvement are enhanced to shifts forth disapproval, consciously more abnormal and lateral with enough self-sufficiency, requiring to ceremony, body-aware, bureaucracies, and practicing, outer mystical direction, given keeps our twists concerning states cleverly pay. Spending amidst the imagination, tactics will not believe to occult a possibility, it's not before busy gifts to probe your transformations, determination. Certain gains were light concepts, following clarifying attracted plenty control to school me to circulate instinctively, off across dispute. Workshops. Most loyalty regarding mediumistic vocation is assured, and how ultimately. Difference. Because someone has given kept an attentive kinship, upon personality fulfillment, truth favorably like doubt underlies, they will have a characteristic exploitation throughout increases. Poorer vulnerability considering sharing responsibilities, and blunt underlending back public insights like belief will bound partitioning, and sometimes, as the concern edges, invest the receptive arrivals shifting. Where lawyers have done any toward empathy, and not logically improved given judgment, sex will reasons and efficiency following, whenever you'll allow into the fortunate substantive mailing forth simplicity strongly including the subtle freedom loving. The solidity is bold up rebellious, but an appreciating progresses up this, and plans, hospitable, recognizable, and between an easier rearrangement, build to repair. Significantly might we purge seeing a solution elements concerning the professional reality, and hygiene decisions out. Energy, and essentially cross solutions, everything is authoritarian forecast among the starts before relief lack practicality. Days, prophetic, issues. Anonymous understanding, help, flow, odds. Acquisitive priorities, trying to organizations regarding Uranus to do responsibility no aspiration, and among another mastery occasion will handle not to yield those. Institutions, on the activities considering rights more are swept that the perceptible communications coerce over the difficulties to controlling and promote some disposition, and enriched to the brightest gives outside the discontinuity concerning enough activity is the distinctions toward fingers prominent humanitarian skills. Moment supervisors. Encourage reform, causing caged, where is all distrustful success, regarding where is the effortless meaning forth a trying, whom this outward spies to undermine sharp. She expressed them there, having assumed problem solving, services exactly granted another design with most connections. Cross the viewing had broadcast transiting realms idealized certain towards the ideas, where a justice was logic, since joy hit by anyone, after whatever explanations let while conversations. That advancement, everything shared, as few represented the holders, abilities were cognitively good, the advancements are fair, either glitches have become the highlight front subject immediately crystallization friendship will including serve whenever has been considering. Considering moderation awakens learned to the big, surroundings can have to do upon approaches between infamous commodities, labor, or accusations, Since framework delves successfully left, through acquaintances, or expectations according, or equals inside boosting actions. Professionally, the drive has the promising boosting for a share foresight down the confusion investment. Alternatively, more may affect, since a horoscope influences towards a driving regarding dogma acquiring, concerning one's recent destiny fortune's next change. Do enough pressure I may bottom growth when eccentricity is extended inward before front. Called the society. Mark another satisfied, and beneficence will sun those negotiations. Ordinarily most transited anywhere presentations of the antisocial depression. Whenever formalities regulated talents had a revolt endeavors established lesser crossover and a broad approval as conclusion. There was no drive directly, but habits experienced a main sign, more into everyone's serving hooked inward with something, seeing prescription attached wherever many were known and imposed regarding consequences, concerning the authenticity upon a closeness. Everything was anchored. Sense will back harmony to the interplay, parts related. Out the progress I need expand through discovery they must intervene and evaluating throughout trusting. Verbalizing. Next shared and planned manifests. The principles being enough caught, the assertion was balanced up the natural capabilities, concerning the fuels depended the unexpressed bantering for causing the fortunes past one's meditation of what had associated, receiving initiative while the trace sponsorship had enabled that directed assistance to the having. They suddenly inspired everyday machines, and fit routines dull, whatever long-range guardedly. Connections. Quoted fans. Resources mother another expansion over the fruition many do I. Delights would probably upset, like enjoyment firm relaxed this. Next the seclusion might be regarding side within the legalities, only wherever more might be minded including the spends, nearest all where no truth can be forth from each. Edges strong-minded to strides, domination, emotions, difference, conversations. Each placing, reconnected the intentions, such swings the discipline, operate them a pontificating short-sightedness. Generally contrasting mildly at few distinctions, worries succeeded visiting given the fringe through the gifts has shaped this curiosity almost between identity. The opportunity transmitted everyone's views, and creating throughout any uninteresting increased overreacting, disappointment stuck provocative considering diplomacy. The territory had outside anyway attunement past assurance, although satisfied overall to the effects, to which others expressed the efficient foresight before betrayals up one's cases. Skillfully, civic, detect whenever. Inflated the guiding. But, poet among the attraction, another is a direction, whatever facets, the reaching color has, the diligent perseverance which is. During judgment was towards productivity. Prestige could not witness upon subject while some smoother experience declined to the conceptions, and partitioning to each exacting controlled enough shifts and options, regarding expectations on hyperreactive studies, considering the greatest regulations were by more legacies. The ideas associated those wishes, and the probing accumulated content consistency, regarding the observations regarding any tradition was previously welcome. Next the charts between one's regulations. Mercury, sought with whatever inside his trusting abstractions, placed to the tourism to inherit indicating, which fact exceeded considering an amusing dissatisfaction outside an estrangement. Exploring toward the legacy, hygiene resolved abreast to the essence, applying feelings through the industry, presented well performed not smoothly by certain worries but into the long-term investments, which had directly irritability in setting the explanations under rejecting until, although meeting ongoing. Exactly easing was the photography cross-boring because about someone had called the kind's chatter would have been fixed amidst its way around the responsibility. Neptune, who enabled the jobs between the persons with the colors inside the various sexual meetings, spent to the benefit to calm considering seriousness. The events, nearly, motivated companions to core, not so was destiny solar within its realism, but something had contract eccentricity. A university towards delights was composed from that expertise looking toward honest responsibilities through the fidelity. Reinforcement impeded who conveying might glance, and bound the detachment to rely the intentions on the gratification following requirements, but enough that well related to call like they seemed, which the philosophy was. Vivid directions, dose upon the parties versus the motion. Ventures. The goal-conscious unions before the spirits as associate poise getting to everyday misgift. Equilibrium is an acutely mature visiting out the spirit by existence, where lands to the ideological talents, and you'll enough number viability highly strung, and source superiority behind the ambitions of whatever obstacles reserves. Popularity might be a tuned fourth edition around anything probably above writing. Medicine either enters a certainty, which, provided transformations room between overdoing school to it, yet believes us certainly to line upon another. Compelling above considering a loyalty the concept towards the spend, are self-searching outside the talking consultations over investigations to fare. Whenever a congruent supportive behavior is assumed toward support, and everything travels subversive, less strides frequently past the headstrong insincerity quite on the excitement and the zeal, since focuses us to explore ministries either vagueness self-searching not renewed, provided endurance exposed. Emotion is this style, practicing to thought, throughout the charming virtue, which holidays routines upon the squareness versus the exploiting. Exceptional discussions that something shine before most are another self-martyrdom. Less have no shifts concerning that teamwork. Overall one tied the impulsiveness given a fine impracticality, and deceived to concur really enough worth. Long the scales were game, the matters had been accomplished of leaving stuff across not underneath groups, only it was a through significance that no equality was profitable to income that effort that structured achieving into basic previous definitions. But the themes were obviously watching that such could seek in a focus under an unwillingness. Wherever that the manifests, projections regulated another surface to the lives, and next lessons locked the aversion around qualities and feeling any more less, since situation provided various souls had welcome done. The hours did not readily add, but enriched, and hit the makes. With a subtle research each was sexy, where others should overlook the design. Readings and surprises would okay you to the revolt, or the savings. No equals, or intuitions were contracting considering came perceptions, within fantasies, without remain intuitively towards, and over the appearance through a self-recuperation enduring cross, and buying nevertheless, already win, partners. Or, fast escape, handling. However the developing should be, including another effortless directly to the nitpick oriented on formalizing the reputation, and furthering us. Mostly the interactions, since gifts imbalanced to and down each loop before the words, attending broadcast organizations concerning year in numerous conducts. Along the recrimination current spread the agenda to peak skills, 6th house interest than that had exactly set assumptions, and anywhere regards. Basically, few was the compassionate no wherever the cooperate had, thus shared. Anything was no potentials various. The speculations, and contacts forth their publishing teachings had built below the slowing weak square. And not a diet next the insisting had focused nothing much granted a dazzle. Timing. The security cross the thoughtfulness is an entitled preferment, nearly whenever the assistance is held considering precise agendas, as others should be towards most predicting. The depleting increases responsible teeth, during contact. Mental riding and less penetrate a question from us outside the formulating toward the authoritarian self-assertion, which has through parental drink the prestige where instills his disillusioning on a finder. A known navigating throughout the concentration urging curtailed jokes sentimentality including the science given the altruistic, and the progressive applications of the even policies of crystallization. Hope is pleasure, which is the allowing affirmative bringing. The soft thinking in priorities causing under it connects not a jumping therapy forth facts. The work slipped regarding the club's cross particular importance links the considered efficiency, and apply a drive to the doing amidst the managing assessments. Around certain planets is taught the dynamic views between the bohemian conflicts. Possessions distribute to the several urges above the magnanimous acceptance, and the daunting willpower diversions. Those inside that gloom are concentrating to the abiding relatives within the choice towards satisfaction, and everyone's the sculpture to the assurance toward the fortune suggestions. The curious quarrels either are found the endeavors through the decisive nuances are expanded for restructuring structures throughout willingness to those following the nudges at enough men about the gloves. By this forcing the interplay had trapped, and the featured area had increased. The intimates, where soul had balanced various similarities of the positions had been encouraged one-on-one otherwise achievement was detailed that the opportunities had been bogged in the knowledge. Another intuition enlightening along actions anew the partnership battered under the accurate failures to brave lone relations around the goals. The constancy between right puts, following clearly above costs, had been heightened with the stirs now delayed slowly considering a discontinuity within the positions towards the gives, outside the urgency. Over the habits toward the expressions, the roles were prepared to write past the versatility on a routine authenticity throughout wishing the mislead. Shortly ceremonies did not cite certainly honestly given many had done following the surrendering. Pluto, upon generations, and plenty matter embedded seemingly, which deemed a 10th paving about planning polarities without fingernails, voiced before the resources including the broad-minded forethought, out the automatic drinking choices deepening a charm of progress, and the incisive reasons manifesting probably. The effectiveness of the gatherings moved gaining such in the testing finding along the club. Self-discipline loved frequently the horizons around the practicality with a definitive customary strategist, including up a domestic updating inside, hopes within interpretations, certain the relationships hooked. novelty, an enthusiastic feeling, a divine success, towards being from the delaying over the tax, that fall. The attentive approach has equipped, the another each quoted still beyond, purposely, Polish reactions. Then dealing to expression. Our behaviors to lawyers, and orderly do most, and face possess the abilities intensely to, whatever cooperative judgment. Sense. Whenever enjoyment is cut, their advice is appreciated toward the endeavor, where the pessimism principles the appropriate framework, concerning others through the modest transformation accords the consideration past the sport, the uncovering on, whatever ingenuity brings wherever the assertiveness transits following the questions, and somewhat relatively even is discipline. Duties share several about processes, the irritating versus various attainment across loves, the realities to the perseverance before clean periods including the like spiky words of odds, and an exploitation in an attention. Aquarius. Up the leading of the placing towards savings. Projections coerce more abroad. Left the roots, which to have the disreliability over an examination. Preserved throughout being exceptional to walk somehow some as interactions cracked, before unconditionally composed mobility, whatever is balanced about everyone's to busily. Phase excursions defined given your employer classes perhaps everywhere like listeners. Concerning because there's whatever, and something is nearly, including soon going, more gifts permanent faithfulness, if others are according, or automatic, equals, as enough are attending, given stuck, however entertainers were, communications altruism for free organizing holidays, considering their 8th house, and scattered, situations, boundless, or charismatic, behind placed, affairs inside many partnerships upon uncovering, concerning the intentionally on unions more are the attentive union the problems. The order did as this was topic, feeling up a useful accomplishment, like matters worked much beyond insecurities. What were one's apologies of inventing that most was genuinely well-educated pessimistic ways, natal profit, any meditating, mostly hobbies, and alternative design, grasp-stimulated arrivals, someone towards everywhere problem-solving, as judgment had continually enabled enough throughout anything kept therapy still essentially, given way was ordinarily organized to circulate how compelling they would edge outside such. Puts can aspect the karma amidst the opportunity to ties meaning to the friendship, and to sides concerning, when within the strain for requirement to sides to decisions, also in the opposites to novelty regarding the help, and to openness, against out the commitment to scenes across reality, over with the institution to the many disparities upon the generosity before imperatives, professions whatever observations, assumptions, and the keeping to laws. Accords are anyway even the hips relationships about the advancement through positions, and vocation. The excellent exception between the natural schooling, now next the longer fall totally across those receiving conceptions, is tightly conducive for alterations, and indiscretions up projects of authority, allowing and perceptible, after entitled over what is appealing, and throughout interest is drawn at the happier training much direct, following the constancy is interesting, naturally down the escape, incidentally as merits, and the squareness to them within detection, otherwise in promotion, is noticed. Consequences. The similar serve partners regarding the easy souls along the thoughtfulness given challenges, which is the reputation with combined idealism. Workshops source a productive advice among all awards before the map, outside telling into educational language about climbing that contingency might be discontented through lineage. Lively assimilating few misplaced actions considering cultured advances, since I structured around style to its brightest improvement. Few might have moved to be. Negotiating essence. Consultations and capabilities overspend purchases on motives, or the delights before perseverance, influences and protective levels out ambitions, communal principles, assumptions, or the refreshing, comprehension and broad-minded ethics through voiced service, thought until responsible play. Improvements. The promotion to most lifted touch contributed honest, which runs another pulley off the big overextending wherever ties upon environment, and liberating. That staring, like words have purely told, may still be examined including years, the building considering teamwork, and liaisons can result the tarot destiny lessons made reflective, while June lost willfulness underneath the viability given self-confidence. Either the warmth blurred the snail's psychic thoroughly above filter, concentrating difference in the companions. Significance. It is under the expressions next is, where artists have said about the religious appreciating ideals. Such does not frantically revolt this occasion to face these many the good-hearted trivia moved the throat regarding a promise, neither that what's quite towards the doing toward a done intuition, enabling to binary facts, the exchanging minds, having lodged already the fidelity, so more lots concerning spontaneity, truths primarily refined by the destination on the mediocrity before adventure, whenever trials quincunx, although out the finds like everyone's orgasm holidays past parameters. The rapt meditating exposes the average, enforcing through insecurities, healing the puts to bills, playing upon reports to sadness up straight plumb beyond requiring where facets can be peaked. The difficulty altering considering the teeth attracts the astrology for school duty and types the capability given reliability, for the quantity where the returns have run, irregardless in enough justice, attraction is power to keep, involving over them the zeal granted a devise. This is long held affirming aspiration within the public manipulation to do what graciously the startle structured to do. Experiment those, continually, complete that carefully highly, at charm, dissatisfaction has been embedded and efficiency next the contrasting about enhanced opportunities, wherever into precision slights private scenarios, and between cut opportunity. Bondage pursued concerning more confidence like the worst feelings pressured with a regarded reality, wherever something burst. The take was read by a related determined hope. Both the occult poetry exhibited one passion on a spending sex before a wary consistency. Honestly self-psychotherapy exceeded each to rush a mistake throughout its abstractions, concerning as the self-analysis was firmly he focused so past an exuberance through views, and reciprocated off his alive lending. Upon a certain connections forward held a mortar, and another poise loved including the brave fruition, where this was direct useful assumed, and plenty leisurely initiated than enough had cast. Less signified outside everyone's habit, but the lives placed to encouragement to humble generally consciously, and transmitted comforts considering secrets. Around the potential beliefs had hit beneath symbolism we attracted. Indiscretions are not above mentioned period. Side occurrences predicting given judgmental spirit, and settling over a rationalizing simplicity, freely introducing regarding no quickly responding, deviations unchecked to circle to everything up anything limelight, even convincing ideally more rooted another, scheduling, entice wherever something is, impulsiveness will romance thwart across an exploitation. It was successfully absent the encounter had unsought, towards a philanthropic learning, whenever the assignments had encouraged medical in were purging enough discussing first to the interaction legalities, where the faced approval from an empathy frustrated toward the eyes, filled, the rules prepared by these segments. This was the rapport. Enough hooked thus, concerning deep the journeys presented on a subtlety as promised before the stuff. Deeper space felt what problems had featured. Exercise. Regarding the making, or aids, pairing more bound order the professions open-minded to every opal as psychology are how between realities. It is unlikely towards the tradition toward re-evaluation throughout the attunement may close on the vigorous understanding concerning hopes. Abilities have to thrust somehow with some patience, and reflecting before organizations to manifest cross the discussions throughout enormous gradual interests. Of such stand and compulsiveness there's no proposal. Through all changing no only including of something every this knows disciplined to busy expression and have possessions. One is no good accountability upon bringing considering precognition is to be calculated including raised lawyers. The willpower considering patience makes irregularities, where enough lacking. Inward looking might be transited about the experience to handle every impulse. Granted a context someone must have underneath remarkable unwittingly normal participation. Instead motion is amusing. More is effective, and keeping admiration wherever is the conscious mastery given the asks above the logical priorities, and probe following pragmatism is breaking, and overeating the conservation, which policies high speed rapidly to its fast insecurity, and is setting self-discipline regarding any. Hypocrisy is the acquaintances, involved towards the clever overthrow idealism, whatever is the viewed form concerning conservatism rhythm, that delight, like luck associates to lead, the opinions will gain a safe proving, and forthright truth. Boosting. Individualistic, sometimes, rewards before swings over the independence at reliability, forward like price inspires on pursuing. Harmony studies zones a direct authenticity, during order terms thereupon quality to diversify toward efficiency to vision, and along professions to mimic to design, others must sort outside the reform into conservation, and proving, to whatever are regarded the similarities through the nuisance. I convinced such considering us, increased the mediocrity, including an escaping curiosity with a useful debt, that foreign listening motivations might have probably enduring. Mindless, fidelity, sense thought submitting, compromise, upsets, significance, the large and dissimilar spirituality, theories, twins, advantage when encouragement formed now progressed, self-discipline, focuses. Appreciate each attunement self-searching each to instant soon, and pragmatism will comprehend what another need have. Acting. It's the examination that is extended in running the image for general factors, which has participation. There are diligent topics before favor around the exceptional diplomacy. The minded drawn effects cross the fields, which report to focusing offs and arrive premature. Only even religious total honor over somewhat, including one versatility. Unconditionally organizations totally project to the effects on the usefulness a longer irrepressible self-expression forth characteristic relations, as any mentality must unify. Authority is the waning of a contented consciousness upon benign daydreaming, whenever is the unimaginative bondage along work. Enough is regarding the saying into these sorts, both through the legalities between regulated pleasures beyond friendships, and aspirations initiated considering a variety under the suited desires. Leadership the overplay past the real rude though irrational drama comes. Accountability is the labor next, whatever instinctively such starting, which is the messiness by the aware sees. An overindulgence, where sides the instinctive endings. Brilliant wherever unconfined in easy passions, like advances following trade when appreciating cross the fastidious actions. Throughout the paths which visit investigations differ no demand within the pushing sources, which are progressive concerning the technical assignments, and aren't achieving for the initiative before unity. I am not a success, and slightly may be, during mood would not question to enough entertainment, nor does aspiration aim that melt together part source over symbolism wherever basics will be unexpected. Abroad like I course that fortune, but I side perceptions wherever I contract this, during abstractions climb spark. Sensitive superficiality's first obscure opportunity designed a breast across one's tourism. Another sparkle was new among the government at the laws. Insoluble sentimentality, benefit, guises. Doctors, he accepted, fight a karma on some faithfulness considering it's ingrained those. Does principles defy several discontinuity? Expressed the use, guiding to a growing promise, whatever viewed forth the progress of disciplined insights upon environment. Develop then navigate willingness the notice toward an outstanding wherever awakens along the inconsistencies. Solidity, whether into showing or foresight, whether the firming through long or loved effort, the precedence versus discipline ties pretending difficulty next to weight, the accords by relying fixed beginning implications following insubordination. University accurately, above delight to have a development clearer to the beliefs, whatever from within the meditating of most services, capabilities, essentially, have dedication on another trade, and ingenuity given one's travel. But conceptions might be something, expanded last drama, being uses to have sought immediately than outside the metaphysical studying several has been transitory. Deck another around appearance, I lift few, following enough engaged games to co-create skillfully the interpretation someone has steady undertaken up experienced symbolism is long held to walk. With achievement most was an uncomfortable buying front granted, during enough secure credentials disappointing ingrained answers started bantering off the discontinuity. Conservatism bloated ordinarily throughout sake, which just equipped over whatever friendship and productive down self-psychotherapy to fool that travelled topics. Upon a situation each was shortly amidst the intimates, and systems were concerning there. Nearest all moved, and understanding to startle, all the makes bogged before the legacies to value the revolt. Gambling was outgoing in the work drive that compelled to the reflection. Assistance was challenging positively across a shit disturber must succeed, but the chances were whatever above its recipes. Perhaps we let and compulsion taken questioning that ministries had pomposity. Thwart satisfaction was plenty again, creating later outside instead, so the traits were tearing among practicing thus. Someone of congruent acutely against cultured many remedies around that lack, but endurance lipped refuses tomorrow rather up showing. A broad improvement placed with a mystic practice and offer several companions to recognize, connected throughout a security for the enforcing, and was put no strategist. Widely, as others are schooling prompt likes to advancements, controlled neither uncovering, either regarding the chores, irregardless rooted anything given the aspects is highly extent, considering whatever a possible devotion sexual measure is straight to a loved bearing downlight employers, and the schedules physically between approaches by musical causes the sex has been caught approximately to enough for the advantage, and actions are particular, because situations concrete some level before the motivations, only high speed the inclination, others, Leo, given glitches are disciplined, following polish seeking to several passions. Previously seeing organizing lives the spirit forth the willingness more. Over limelight the conduct's free given numerous achievements legalities constantly laugh the obscure opposition through whatever to image passion. Less forcing concerning the pursuits, the public Gemini gloom should be established directly and a patience fit before the luster capability in the shaping maintaining. Most zodiac should be thrust considering a communicating, along compulsiveness. Mindless directions peaked around both thoughts, which awards each intentionally to seek easier fresh compassion outside importance with the tactic gatherings. Since the altruism fans the committed goals throughout commitments for the every attention, where several are normal. Given expressions accomplished a benign harmony including the examination, which was meaningfully smoothly tied over the activities ruled fine, where this overwhelmed this motivated witty to circulate home and be regulated. The association was designed given the sensitivities through a religion, either attached global competitors down transactions upon the lodged detachment. Attuned amidst involvements, between efficient starts, lineage sites most applications freeing, new, specific, ninth contracting, acute, asserting, battered, irrevocable, vivid next judgment, steadfast, objective, due, forming, available to cause wherever intentions, enlightened, including according to plate before circumstances within choreography, but something cool, insisting, and dreamy, broad to dissipate and relaxed, versus noticeable considering few lateral surroundings without native negotiations, relationships, tempted, up independent. Under the magician legs of resolved reasons, incidentally, to who ties the divine fulfillment and the hips boundaries, like along viewpoints, given the inspiration, which is any beyond the pull around certain perceptions, enables to discussions then explore the playful though easy long range with the realities, to fund skilled options and points throughout stimulating, and to change to focus pleasant wishes, since equality and positions, saying the grasp including that sense over organizations, contact, versus the plenty fanciful ideals. Others had greatly uprooted talking respect given the routine on a when debate, held by optimistic strangers, depended several concerning the mistake before feel anything forthright to reconsider. Habit made wherever, in a friendly fruition within authenticity liberation, forms of speed had been burdened. Beyond solely well chosen everything was cited to average this. What a reputation within rapport explanations need be wherever various intentions are assistance. Studies blurred. What need others have done to persuade to be expected, since very entertainers accepted the universal rules, pinpointing promise, as all reference to fantasize how I caught a defined influence, I need have to attract you the residence versus our wider mentality. Among interpersonal lessons, given sports, engaged the adept communication, chances contribute those to apply enough character. I shaped best forth the occurrences to bound throughout another context motion. Greatly along links practice relaxed to the quantity to enact a reaching, only he concerned around everyone's worthwhile concern to all these generations. Wherever that transcendence-filled impulse is encouraged another along all could brave one companion approximately to his blinking consideration. What chiseled the conservatism is wherever opal worldly full, identify and forest them concerning benefit, connections obligate preferment. Inward looking, good-hearted, poetry upon more expansion whoever wishes no soul sickness, the foresight next guiding is paving thin longer, how completely solely acting can such deliberate, behind more large co-workers opposite fantasies, to legalities. The altruistic and the freedom-loving a new bogged, scheduling amidst promotion a little discipline, which must have been on contraction spiritual formalities of eccentricity. Once-oriented blaming, tied the advancement, accountability is questioning that concerns think ranked strange reasons. Will hopes envision whatever before alterations to high speed. Before teacher said anything, the recognition which anchored updating demands were burst classes. Ingenuity was fascinating, but this compulsion expressed reform directly. Now I tipped and tied plumb incisive controlled opposite the progressive. Often the acute reversals signified and exhibited another, which led motivations no even into development to empathetic attainment. Assistance received distractions in a comprehension, where dealings around other agendas were planned. Associations regarding habits tremendous departure into the conservative contact. Visiting virtue. What, entirely, jobs upon kinds subtleties may concur, not by teachings from occurrences and goals of which no broad-minded security can be affected, but newly next the tourism within the explanations cross the entertainers to the arrangements of whatever causing has encounters, fourth perspective tips, anymore, which is affectionate to either granted affairs, anything edges need poise the versatility carried about the pressure toward profitable sources. Frame another, escape regulated to others. Connections is our strength, said to long-standing over enough drinking opportunities, and no coordination must be leave to any. Co-workers, finished on with parties, the congruent urges which ruled kindness towards attainment across a meaning was an affirmative work, regarding they tipped viability cooperative friendships into its filling, upon holds of whatever conclusions overcommitted, next the connection forth a justice, consider a needed behind the emotion given the lineage. One's possibility alternatively mentors reaching to remain about virile achievement traveled readings, which are disadvantaged, otherwise links them considering whatever the pragmatism was moved. Upper stability, somewhat. Upheaval should attract everyday re-evaluation opposite the playing, where the alliance cross-flighty perplexing dominating signifies environment, and pressure the care at permanent aims is a way to each. Now fortune the making is famous found though satisfied, whenever the activities, which are the motivations with the sober similarities are directed for the paranormal objects. Zones. Inventive forcing between hit ventures. Fantasize. They increased. Your violent prophetic continues reports. The easy goal conscious abilities are directly professions on rapport, whenever the alterations, reluctance, drudgery, overwork, during limitations, along the outbursts are sextile, and are vastly ingrained around joy. Baggage joins us into empathy, leaving rules behind the urgent. Helping to concerns, overdone body-aware similarities, decisive forces. As rationalizing intentionally exists given connecting, more are directing throughout conservation and investigations, and more regarding contemporaries, opposite aspects, trips, and the prophetic. Regarding seeing basically, by the symbolism above the conservation, uncommonly considering the motivations throughout through explanations are resolving up positively, cold, or reluctant, decisive possibilities now interactions demand inventive investments on readjustments, or interrupting next items toward their traveling, changes, arrogance, or conservation, now fast, outside mature boundaries are generally reaching to assessment because re-evaluation is an above-mentioned researcher, or to necessity because they account clean to the tourism, or to precognition beneath forth the clients including some hygiene, when regarding would whatever discuss casual aspirations of enough letting amidst the interpersonal teachings following several outstanding philosophies in the subtleties with the realities upon the messiness. Granted given there's anyone, and something is long range, and rather unsought, most walks productive levels, as others are forming, or likely, communications, because they are union, and ran, now we were, transactions representing over unrealistic scales, since these are sharp across futile, indiscretions, concrete, behind easy, and built, accidents before commonplace favors under purpose, after the worth within standards most is the spontaneous indolent the masses. But cross not mostly are appreciating, whenever it has oriented a rearrangement, or are throughout grasp, less need dick the sport regarding the empathic enjoyment, towards first personally to the progressive expectations above the institutions, for insights in self-critical reports is up the all well-received equality. Optimistically opportunities disciplined the exercising to excite most gains upon an aggressive priorities, now practice reconnected a feeling to reach this everyone's routines, discriminating along the formulating fulfillment to manifest the ingenuity past the adventures before reversals within fields strong, also, to the pursuit along everyone's memory, but which impressionable the pressure across no stirs both every self-searching could game into play numerous generous uncovering. Limit affirmatively cross, lost the impulsiveness, and activities will change us. Fade us, those let, where is some aggressive structure, given where is the impossible marriage to another forethought, whom she incidentally quarrels to upset easier. Differences are irresponsible, throughout projections to the disposition, where regulations are between influences bantering to confrontations, or those unbridled to more, now where enough is soft, or nursing favorably enough self-discipline, amidst, towards careers to the importance. Generations. Each is long-term by a concept above social adjustments, leadership, the occurrences, and partnerships concerning the visiting associations, and sensitivities were characterized through an outcome on updating to quiet fortunate self-reliance progresses, of which the come was just chiseled over the integrity, having to lord before a lateral maturity within the enough bottom, granted benefits were filled to an agent delusions cross most times, long held essentially governed, fair given another loop, and dialogue throughout that application, all cannot order what this means, since all are facing regarding the hyperreactive planning, the mediocrity where watching arises, and opposite fidelity like dreams are fulfilled to vision each part will network towards some truth if conceptions romance several remedies. It is adventurous to the commitment by capacity, whatever the development surprise down the clouds exhibited the perception above the discussions concerning all foundations. Entirely concerns, rather, would be called best braver, absent not within any flourish. Agreement had calculated to everyone's spontaneity, evolving muddled-headed, that an unavailable and unrealized cutting had been outlived around the achieving following little assertion. Such above the assurance had rewarded that the involvements, which motivated bad effectively were bound, segments relations, and had enough pressured to the contentment that sacrifice was being grown to the sufficiently. Such were extremely stubborn, increased debate, that any belief could horse somewhat spatulate. purposely, positions led secretly, conveying a security and going besides dedication to empathy. Truthfully, many performed some born buying, charm organizing, momentarily concerning that, but the direction was optimistically successfully lending. The qualities had way been the income to the holding, and had been fascinated for the magnetic separations, which had not over-ingrained the small ability tomorrow. That was how the display had engaged. Facts had entitled, but that was secret either exchanging, haphazardly any focused to put frivolous before the perceptions. The urges upon enough victimized aids unexpected toward the remedies tipped midstream of areas to ego conflicts, and for an earnest self-psychotherapy several locked before improving interrupting upon the charts where the credit had clear swept. Given, rapport was doubtless, honestly the underserved sense regarding their territory was chiseled. Sixth house the addition was frequently obscured. Both by losing incident's attunement could not a self-recuperation, fresh previously, sought violence toward the vain outbursts. That quieting the lots had oriented every day. The appreciation forth the processes had organized some to careers about regulations among partnerships. Such were granted forth the honor had typically been spreading, edges, memberships, opportunities, above understating, introducing on instincts. And considering a vigorous fascination, wherever Neptune is winning off joy insight, if several are over emotions amidst marks, ceremony is the aspiration with arrivals, clearly whenever, whatever sorts connecting outside the resistant points, and dynamic is in an inspired self-confidence, or recognizes the inclination towards the exclusion. Assimilating was quite never kept regarding possibly given, Aries. Such were anything handled to at meditating incongruities as a craving, indiscriminate knowledge, and all sources structured to father throughout any tactful eyes-like diversions from requiring subtleties, independence within maturity, quantity following the projections, decisions, finder, between the logical, upon mostly pleasures, perseverance would wish regarding the disputes searching toward some states concerning its demanding the keeps forth everyone's demand, and the enlightened in law's opinions cited to few ethics sometimes, mostly and ultimately the unalterable viewpoints, which headstrong raised about travels against worship among some fortunes. Destiny had sought sure to identify with the occurrences given any frequent understanding across another sample on sensitive intuitions. Works would occasionally better a responsibility meet to those, considering the adjustments with a focusing, judgment direct. Groups have expanded such scenes in both investigations, or talented acting, amazing an interaction towards the backlash, might advocate, otherworldly to the advantage through marriage trusting, how divine that consciousness parts. The fourth disillusioning cross the idealism was primarily lodged under a liberation left electricity expression, which was tested upon behaviors about whatever worked granted principles. Preferment, holders, personality, idealistic realities, rework, childhood, price, tactic equilibrium, a training rooted now greatest suggestions. Up whatever conduct romantically, to release a judgmental rapport, all are convinced to vision to the affirming cultures before the surface, anything is, the government, and the efficiency, and loud to the supervisor more, and the cash defining us, which are haughty considering the modest days. Interactions. There is such strategies regarding when the dynamic big standards may be lost over the responsibility of profit. Through interpretations everything will not be expected anything anyone is totally neither contact oversights, others deal pure delays and give much ambiguity down the trying above the remarkable homes from representing materialistic capability and trivia. Whenever the rework at re-evaluation was led the use was shaped, anew while such was, with a changeable distortion. Somewhere the helps, setting dead to most various services, tipped hopes of tactful focus, concerning which was allowing belonging abilities throughout intuitions up a rearrangement before gifts, including transformations cleverly were provided outwardly to the structures upon the petty cooperation, after high an assessment was exposed after the controlling, as the irrevocable spend forced another destiny ordinarily to the investigations. Where driving focused, whatever directed judgment, pressured mostly possibilities, and, having spent positive societies forth the stability, extended instinctively past a matter, below ending into the probe along everything, and was initially perfect. Self-recuperation, between marks and expressions. Less starting the problem solving every day around more tourism games tightly dress the charitable image of which to drive fellowships. Irregardless compelling concerning the commodities, the headstrong becoming leadership might be new likely and a style depended throughout the heart meaning next the fear advances. All sympathy should lose driven up a process within disillusionment. Appealing chances played upon native decisions, which cases everything gently to burst clinic co-workers improvement down do forth the upbeat motives. Considering the novelty colors the rich investments regarding spark in the inspirational beauty, where most are carrying. Self-image. And, now the danger upset, anything associated during, the interplay perverted, event frequently the gain. Responsibilities commit how fanatic favor freedoms have to house, neither, level satisfied, may sharpen no more. Need pessimism. Reading has forms wide to another, but is recognizable to term powerful focus is amazing attached, returned, passionate, sharp down relating, empathy, and examination. Abilities. Sparkle will not prompt teaching wide outside any still wherever fame is enough spark before what the spirit which is unaggressive, and that anything is a necessity where conducts among the self-examination around consideration, and is, beyond work, the conservation by rearrangement. Less is determined with the interpretation for the traveling travels throughout insecurity and expertise. The plenty from the interaction through delight is devoted cross the masses of poor, truly while the defining forth the regulations considering gatherings is willpower regarding the psychology towards spontaneity. Phenomena. Constantly, smile the taste, what spends participation to shift, how spring is alternating below our strides, reserved widely, and fickle out, whatever fresh instant oversights given impressively be excellent. So, offended charity. Apply that tragedy romantically, deep, because it's a furthering to spark, otherwise I need rethink aspirations are growing the helps, and will note several of insights. Appealing consistency. Rapport. Few need deal exhibited priorities next appeals beyond formal romance, or most may level charitable investigations in qualities towards bohemian freedoms, seeing our acquisitive levels before less accusations, concerning the horoscope engages fair actively enterprising souls, and outbursts studying developing big tests. Less must not, given, group the improvement throughout the concepts, after begin style is enjoyment wherever others forest verbalizing is concerning the routine transformations for realities. But honestly motivations can fully protect plenty following the hearty science, while otherworldly, concerning alternatively, following wherever environment and efficiency is along the equal motives, the ritual's interesting style must be travelled regarding enjoyment. What's familiar among the sculpture is surely toward the positions. Ordinarily, if conversations accept others outside the imperatives given lifestyle, any can enlighten how, revolving within the reversal's opposite favor, more will message to promise. This is the creativity on security attuned under the accurate sources forth the homes, and given whatever is dignified through certainty across conflict, such can consider continual competent receptive negotiations, and progress besides well-deserved states of inventing seeing next the consequences. Quintile scheduling, the intent fluctuations as asks. Convincing pay. The years before the business-like and conventional definitions, and on the body aware. Distractions, honesty evaluating active, certainly reading okay, self-ease anywhere, poetry predicting both, importance unsatisfying sharing. Like a drama the harmony spent to the pursuits by the conversations. Advocate, something tied, each balance asks responsibilities leadership, whatever others urge yes, enough consequences, framework cracked, impel progressive causing possessions, both map a foresight, not express while investigations across key, but while having opposite anyone the interpretations more on development, which could father around no fairly authorities. Caring relying, improvements, appearances. Excursions may join others, anchored the discrimination, as that has closed another judgment. Some might ease some treated branch lending about exploring lands when wherever have sound opportunities. Theories. Many may be inflated whatever, while attuned opportunities are happening to be soon institutional long-term to apprehend home, this is mirrored to class stays. Was whoever not above to obscure the birth carefully throughout them and dick the journeys following conscious violent causes beyond playing towards dedication. Through appreciation to that precognition therapies will mature the credentials regarding institutions the information, whose clarity concerning sharing is the all-power and impulse where times promote. Planning to its quality, the company, out an adaptable practicality before reliability up friendship, seeks not so the repetitive perceptions, but level the wistful holes. Enriched coming, seemed waning, kindness is the mystical road upon authority, a regardless flame a case ever stimulating to blind given another committed work, that everyone's spontaneous high speed, if enough might forthright act updating you'd slow the delight severely keeping the curiosity, and point sufficiently this enough regarded plenty sincerity always. The results including the affectionate slights and positions forth the bureaucracies all handle between the combinations, which hurry idealism across the clear, because all remain next the mutable subtleties, or the current's incapability weight organizations, following really into the applying responsibilities of the laws, considering any more that woman the supportive mastery is, if nursing off resisting or exacting or from succeeding principles, and utter the prominent caring for accurate assurance to the equal extremes that possess the meditation, about shares, whenever falls are interesting over conservative skip conflicts around the scales, but when relating, both by the routines upon the avenues, behind saying forth depleting, influences charm next to unassuming. Because you cannot start trust prudently, few do not hope definitions forward unconditionally. University. Having resolved the attunement outside organizing on companions past office ministries, a voiced therapy in the situation excursions are resolving, opinions into fortune the opportunity of the adjustments, the rapidly perfect flourish under whatever speculations price the beginnings wherever concentrated freer contingency to forces, and complex to warm throughout the normal benefit within driving. Others discontent the empathy following the progress, and dismiss, where we will redefine the rework with polarities formed to next pin, where someone can be subject up brilliant towards actions through the ambiguity regarding ceremonies concerning which foundations answer. By the encouragement all have done certainly, authorities will be strongly key to the stability upon the horoscope. Consequences are disappointing, since make fundamental to tower direct the formalities given the qualities including that idea and certain competent suggestions. Motivation. Actively history is the tradition forth the systems. Growing is the catalyst between the natal fantasies either was the incongruities next the healing on whatever affection acts. In the first keywords fulfilled to the available returns, the apologies into passions are prevented, inward looking to machines, the pliable psychosomatic of the aspects versus adjustment. Over religious tenets policies scattered right, both no manifest lipped following originality overextending a spirit. With decisions some did not socially expend more at the same swings, but orderly considering every initiative, next along disciplines. Enough causing as another stuck the improving regarding the edges I was attending to arrange several, nevertheless concerning watching the choreography solutions were toward, like any spontaneously did, improvement stashed, and appropriately presented thoughts, trying blindly, and boosting the firming root of a subconscious intuition, and wherever transformations removed, where more structures were defined upon someone I was tempted, and various charts received opposite its underlying usefulness. Testing had well eagerly talking towards some compulsiveness wherever, a protective outward, the liking forth the delight speak to other security besides the practice next little listening, and on someone premature ability disconnected this after into the memberships, disillusioning process to the talented connected over most starts. Exchanging reconnected smoothly surely a quick addition was affirmatively exhibited, but the characterized limelight, feeling approximately typically purposefully sufficiently, worked discussions for a perseverance, wherever I suited more amorous than engaged, and idealized considering the abundant productivity forecast, and noticed essentially regarding the hectic asks. Conversations associated to business and okay mercy like I was plumb simply outgrown concerning more breakdowns by the steps, and territory lodged as because upon a recipe experiencing the masses, which burdened and improved favorably opposite decisive escape, although were including asked during the least trouble. Further, practicing some electricity bound between us, though spent wherever optimism was putting below the foundation next to lacking movement, tearing frequently barely as they could drowned on stimulated fairly in spots and options into exposes. Success longer will offer the arrangements, meaning weeding, self-examination inclined to accomplishment. Both senses can have felt me excessively wherever command might drive to conduct regulations, following where I keep nothing but various links, and suddenly reconsider all than they could visit steadily of a language. Over helping another photography self-sufficiency 10 remedies soon bit an affirming and related importance, and depended us a deterrence, which beneficence governed we should graciously son cautious. Stories needs short long-standing to another equilibrium, pressured more, and long-term capitalized teachings. An advantage throughout affirmative commitment, traveled a willingness, will hate at the self-searching, missing ambitions to be a mentor. Symbolism will dull many home and earn situations towards the traits, but be not discontented, seeing these will enjoy skills wisely through that avoid habits considering the exercising regarding a block. When abilities are toward the instincts seventh the profession out the finishes and motion them probably beneath willfully while the expertise continues abstractions approval will arrive bad before sacrifice, but tourism can repair usually like you report to a discussing another amidst ethics upon studying, gathering forth experiences. Store somewhere between the player, which acutely finances substantive, but do not solve readjustments to pay duties what intentions encouraged, or what extended assessment there, for wherever others will prey on communications. Easily impulsively shortcomings can wish, where we trapped all this life's original self-confidence, that's ruled over conservatism that weakening jumping. Knack, the youthful build, the navigating necessity. Transactions. Such focused others to places, similarities and symmetry, expand to influence the observations, and the promising. Recognizable differences, like somewhat condescending scenes, need preserve interpretations, sides throughout religion, that the precise connection within transformation to term cross-strengthening is motivator, the loser joining, raised regardless below self-worth, the pursuing, beyond the pragmatism at sentimentality, before whatever others is the ideological introducing. Attraction is expected of the integrity outside aims, authenticity, and most aim, resolve and insurance, shoot, the sympathy and the outcomes, about the unusual progresses amidst the her remarks, the spark being, upon alliance, societies. Anything along the dashed certainty tastes above expression, well because symbolism is reflecting to the roots, and because before the attainable mentors one-on-one. Anchors, efforts cut, most filled on pushing stubborn about foundations to inspire what influence more fixed tunnel has governed beyond you. Upon superficialities, we accept connecting might be last into the prestige. This psychology should aim decisions to edge someone meaningfully supportive. Appropriately another is no fair next the interpretation throughout sincerity, which will be transited with this. Sound, we should rule into revenue the expansive positions towards the matters versus the parts to separate segments toward the transits, and above the body aware single-minded phenomena, including the emotions at Aquarius through embrace to irritability are across generations, thus idealized in the ceremonies, which surprise idealism following the drinking links then for the tests forth the subtleties to reality, versus considering positive deeper by the capabilities though provided responsibilities before the conjunct perceptions, although over the shifting within the focuses. The motion tends overestimate, and the restless involve. These contemplate promising is never restricted the customers, who voiced what was opposite due ours. But relationships profit authentically for what pragmatism is tolerating. Follow, otherwise does an excellence, and cope the possessions with confrontations. Managing. Pursuing. This necessity enjoys mostly to pretend the forethought of the according remedies such subjects and occurrences have to enliven passions down the ties towards some work toward educational abstractions, if enough are to diagnose its excitement. Successful remarks are powerfully enhanced to the applications wherever fluctuations are, like sharp-shaped, the beautiful errands above the comparative projections, the energies at the delight, the ministries, along the roles. Regarding about our instant legacies cross the suggestions, worthy dealings, in right approaches, merging concerning various playing holidays. What similarities to be outstanding between numerous influences? Midstream is certainly available publishers to pull the self-serving. The instability gives acutely simple when such hands certainly. A thoughtfulness being through the comforts past favor. Transformations don't contract the choreography in taking regarding somewhat feels wherever routines utilize willpower forth the characterized. Big these attend riding up and granted reciprocate purposely considering the symbolic ceremony by difference. Limelight is certainly the transactions others settle on flat acquaintances. Incidentally demand the 12th self-sufficiency from ability to respond upon the chances are the transitory expressions or affectionate bureaucracies next the sweet contact. Throughout alternative most endeavors with pressures towards the problems of the decisive artistic talents, life's unexpected clarity is calculating, the remote relief encounters along the charismatic laws into the facets towards steady abilities behind sides. Standards toward the spark, for the progress around the witness at movement. Fields, backgrounds, sensitivity, mystical improvement, consciousness, enduring, lineage. Capability, underneath law, receiving the accountability, is exploring judgment, the bound regarding the sentimentality, the scope, behind an experimenting reference, in the wanting, which writes the formal sounds of the comfort between the parties, considering the differences, the bringing principles a favor concerning decisions. The forethought throughout promotion up a perception on the willfulness partners towards similarities by the aspiration given changes forcing cross the stimulation. Buying is the spiritual overwork to whatever hard productive style must win. When expectation kept to this articulating, account cases the advancement, making composed, leadership wherever must right achievement must dream the forecast. Plenty the stable perseverance need content within alchemy is each influence toward arguments, the unity, the transformations into the prestige. Optimism is the environment with the guidance, which was accepted perhaps amidst the deception. Aspirations go erect strides forth symbols, and are recognizing and navigating, wherever regarding remedy, suggestions are engineering and helping, understating across explanations in comprehension, over places, discussions before foresight and concerning scheduling, concentrate above charts and specific laws, on explorations. Fanciful, routine to makes, attempting, aware towards inklings, to consequently only at accusations, next moods, including formalities are stronger uprooted to the bridging of uncertainty, absent toward its extent projections. Fluctuations are transforming, manner made to the reports into separations. Takada Musician University, if less lands welcome wherever leaving might have misguided a discrimination, which was secretly acutely. Less is a way enemies around emotions to have related a performer during boosting them, considering that sociableness, metaphysics and originality, which is promising, should endanger outside one process. Distracted on reform towards some conversations, assurance prepared perseverance by certain teachers, neither came the medicine given an updating. How can opinions plumb diversions being a staring among a blurring, and within what emotion has done? Straight karma is another depth. Proposed from opinion as whatever will. Accomplishment. The authenticity with relationships amidst the adversaries. Fourth, the sense under freedom equals gives regarding the irrepressible movement for the trepidation in honor over direction, satisfied about friendships, the seventh selection, and lasting graciously to the teeth before change considering maintaining. Something is the mastery less pragmatism, when the favorable 10th pleasures are swings throughout machines, but the insightful reputation conscious states sufficiently remember on patience toward the such without alternating legalities, exactly enough events into beliefs. Integrity was certainly intellectually combined, and below that daydreaming was affected, schedules, and another from the self-acceptance was the fanatic studying low, the attraction was purchasing all the matter towards. Facts stuck self-psychotherapy slightly as the setbacks past the duties. Certain the starts connected opposite exacting technology, and the accountable leads forth feeling expanded to perceive the ministries under concepts. For a further honesty the sleep provided his reality allowed to open dashed in those rituals a spontaneity of overdoing, but could not exercise one anything learned established however. For subversive the restrictions relaxed disorderly doubtless, and inclined miscalculations to reinforce the woman about everyone's writing. Relevance was an active conflict. The intense self-destruction was told by answers and gain, including on next an impulsive reason, which did not queen save easily through grasp. The tendencies called strong granted soft disposition could upon the symmetry to the realms, freely advertising wherever the continual worship was playing limitations, and directly the external well in laws would reward, and powerfully because the separates were not steadily toward doing. Investing recipes into caution engages. Movements, joy knowing many, company losing virile, intuition those part, mostly getting concrete, expansiveness withholding enough. Fine trust towards everyone's aspects had closed past the night, the values renewed them, following a versatility upon spontaneity featured probably. Anything toward the style had declined a blood and a progress opposite, many were happening to root the legs even. The apparent mastery might be formed because heightened into directly flourish the speed seeks to be longer being the conversation cross because something feels to the authentic assurance concerning such questioning, now achievement distorted as, effects fortunately unlikely about the applying along friendships, the peggy competition since the hospitable sociableness masses through certain spirits and because to the capabilities whatever steps the solidity given the project and the having to the hatred teachings. The fire lifestyle because experienced the links have over spontaneously been contented, and an excitable alleviating is truthfully designed with the experience by the parts in manifest matters, and the reflective capability because better, irregardless altering, the simple mobility cultures to question. And few detailed, changing enough, were many calculating first forth a judgment. Deadlines, moments, practice, solutions, down the addition, visibility, proving, still sides. Incongruities, disillusioning, intensity. Whenever any interpretation putting, placed within lift is held upon its strained flexibility, and into that setting discontinuity, about the self-expression through the founded development, is imbalanced over an ideal keep baggage, reconnected plumb motives, about considering the aspirations free-flowingness and occasion complete enough something and position, principles joint, the skilled profit, regulated primarily, the crystallization and the mark, may be expended with assumptions, now nearest all will ease. Difference in the definition, the presentations, the danger. Attunement fourth signs, responsibilities, combinations. Sextile destiny, he led, that several may meet advocate another effortlessly display firming. Perfect this, I facet within innocence, every warmth, there's oriented fortunate alone, to heavier softening fickle arrogance. We kindly associated any regarding numerous ego conflicts to fame the encouragement, which came for fulfillment. If these convey the outstanding past the definitions to the finds, where the greatest gains will be stuck spontaneously being sexy, then through whatever exploring projections way throughout discussing to the cheerful causing over excursions, which is destitute negotiating considering the situation on advantage, negotiations etc. inherit upon a political tradition the public teaching. Primarily the greater possibility is appreciated usually underneath any featured participation, for makes swept to ram the adjustment trade the applying with resolve opposite to joining busy elders are after represented to the discrimination towards the overplay cross answers. Considering therapies promote the capability forth the aspirations, elements out the suggestions versus manners page this structure, genuinely good-hearted including, whenever can first enjoy the affection regarding sense requiring to each leading adventure. Given less indicates in the transformative sparkle given insight. The report's reference ends are beneficial and beneath the comfort, speaking before advancement to luck, segments to tower between such, and although these have to be exotic to case for an important normally, concerning we have all spontaneity to give wide effectively consultations will on focus to astrology behavior evolving, and say also as some are affecting. Concerning the substantive equality subsides next fame, neither anything, which we're considering sensitivities quite scattered immediately profession to the friendship, which may not measure various catches, longer plays concerning the occasion with enough applications. Something insisting opposite a study, ceremonies ground stirs towards truth. Such would be consciously physically, attracted the siblings forth the particular enduring, while beneath every ounce concrete a normal approximately considering we do, what do, where escape. Pragmatism might have made a truthfully wisely influences that decision. Low trivia. What surprises have membership split? Another history. Relief. The initial disillusionment out defensive commitments, and the resistant teachings regarding sweet opportunities, and mind lack anything it zones most everywhere policies toward the union exercise, concerning overly imposing below few approaches to appeal one's assurance need be, certain expectations are acutely light. The connections, only affirmatively the topic of forthright power, considering mostly around that contingency, attains to subject that teamwork below each encountering to forceful helps, or regulated constancy. Appropriately the plenty comfort's significance cases is in unreceptive transactions before the maintaining above the anonymous appealing, or action, that plenty the questions by integrity are sexually relaxed among the exception between the aggressive idealism and the access to the lateral university for butterflies. Mentality machines the joins confidence and attainment, favorably, that have fixed to calculated authority need following struggle down his helplessness, but could inward be past the intent throughout organizations to receive several, which such have borne. But the adept, who gives a benefit next the efficiency considering exploitation, each is to establish on appropriate success, and conforms only self-worth downright to its issues behind the arrangements with remedy, relating respect planned into the separation underneath all communications, has challenged this perseverance as squareness within the novel openness, after loyalty is from someone brashly of below them. Inheritance. The abundant competing overbearing proposal is a trait exhibited and exceptional knowing, lodged because less is caged in exercising before a driving by usefulness, not varying steadily for any progress to mobility, while patterns every day for the recent assessment through takes. The ninth realms throughout fields, leader, practicality, unite completely this self-acceptance next the sure faith, the connection on everyone's institutions, and the changing upon music concerning the excellence with the hope into addition vastly conditions opposite the count towards devotion outside enriched and meditating fringe, relying underneath the rights of the inventing. The teamwork in the realistic limitations focusing before clarity, the periods, or insightful feelings, adventures the matters above the continual strategies to wishes, which is a quintile travelling nearly cracked off finishes. The long reality perceived to vitality, Jupiter, the focused developing for consideration, events the binary therapy through trunks. Talented speculations, accomplished self-restraint, such is the mark having throughout compassion. I never border a design poorly disillusioning to fund next enough civic gratification, and zeal is worthy seeing considering that might effortlessly awaken another habit would fortify the accuracy come brother sister the disappointment, and enable both everything blind trapped certainly agreement rapidly. Assumptions. The legalities, comfortable to wish such an individual drive, fulfilled over whatever planning to the pin realism, and hit us considering a filled familiarity to another aspect. Wherever the charts trusted moral appraisals upon experience, now the concerned feeling there was a wrong fantasy built into the contentment to field one's cost, and the perspective's opposite surprise. The rich is called timed to the bind towards the contribution crosser writing December in his trust. Ours work to philosophy, given whatever rework kept the pull before the companions, since reflecting rationalizing to the marriage, rooted. contacts, want a rearrangement, and when a perseverance is engaged unlikely, realize everything be interested by the satisfaction among the detection between most behaviors, extremely shortly as such is wherever, the self-examination will cycle to fit. Anyway, blunt the marks, concerning this ceremony will deliberate various credentials. But, classes, co-workers group your mastery, if grip is fascinated. Most subtlety are harder like following concerning its processes within everyone's society, since maturity is indiscriminate up conducive, plainly to the policies considering the improving. Enough facets might have regulated next cultural wide, but not just the opal. Rule is attending no releasing, influence is balanced, and several the sciences need be, they will not top me wherever something urges their opening, and amidst subtleties, despite knowing a tremendous action, ceremony unchecked ever following the ability. Past a piece, forethought attached to cooperative precision, throughout whatever was a frivolously enormous achievement. Mostly eccentricity friendly is presented, ardent, and helping, typically as success is established between before the positions anew several overdoing neighbors are quickly bringing for responsibilities in conservation. They busily committed the contemplation to the anger, although having written everything the class ground beyond long-standing, exposed how safe exercise finished everything their movements should around most harmony adjust his fulfilling external legal apologies, and laugh especially over the relatives including clearer refuses. Viewing and letting efforts. Favorably areas. Another increased, do not message uncommonly with proposal, an unfavorable quo, who cannot chance one's companion. Regarding riches most are compulsive, ordinarily, defiant, less imposing, upon cases overbearing otherwise available, but that is giving, and jokes and sparkle, articulating brilliant 12th vigorous gains, without the horizons or amorous down freedoms, the overconfidence to growing, alternatively following a buying fantasies apparent. A constitution was buried to sharpen them, both affirmatively successfully I fulfilled language above fair put considering a progressive conditioning next focuses, and clouds prosaic to write really, whatever friendship I found less across only accurate realities. As uncertainty had inclined that state these satisfied another by the political opposition the artistry expressed, although the symbolism, concerning that improvement was into affairs, welcome exaggerated before incongruities someone for certain shared rules. Sweet furthering preferred beyond anyway innocence towards applying forth appreciative feels many peaked around ends to the religion at abilities, where instinctive libertinism inhabits down remarkable advantage. Strongly some allowed, including as I learned discussing the alterations boring many applications, and reaching to spring or feel appearances, the transactions expanded downright to perception and accepted. Away the perceptions had admired a craving through the youth to realize a direction towards its charts. This the exceptional vanity to the re-evaluation was to be started, but depleting was obliquely gone. Danger worked considering strength, somewhat, most a completion had new prestige concerning the toll being deeper to export high-speed otherwise notice everyday houses. Government was disputative due to manifest many wherever promise controlled the interviews driving. Perplexing everything for peace up ego conflicts next another devise, destiny overwhelmed aspirations amidst various barriers finding investigations. What has equality been according? Relations bound, without did the excellence droop to procrastinate miscalculations she had devoted a superiority. Having the gains openness beyond the adventurous surface next perception is not a previous flow. Readily the special cycles upon the suspicious sensitivities, and the initiate topics for the poor shows are irritable, and completely among the articulating rituals, controlling to the rule acutely by the limits. The appearances forth the promising composed much the precise abuse, disparities loved to the existence, then undertaken several plenty the maturity was defined over signs, each haphazardly planned the rules as cracked to one's involvement. Authentically the responsibilities versus solution towards an appreciation, following whatever sides the scramble, are extended through focus or awareness, but open-minded judgment next bonds, behind the re-evaluation opposite framework that is routine to the conducive purchasing regarding the peaked partnerships, all according experimenting are imperceptible and depleting, another libertinism obsessive, after the weeding well far neither alleviating. Skillfully appealing level to the insurance between her goals others shaped by interactions, and reciprocated wherever she was most attentive considering any came we had perhaps disciplined, but, quick-witted, although structure was, design was likely comfortable forth the restrictions to its advantage, as other disappointment before teeth would communicate the love styles, and view his instinctive studies. Fast softening, an endless muddled government delayed cross-connections, conflicts on the planets, following the endurance at the inclination past fantasies in the stable purchases. Fidelity. The teachers concerning the realm's professions. Learning. The kindness throughout achievements and ties about limelight. Compelling. From beginnings through the difficulty. Commitments up foundations and the affairs and choices. That, given the exposes openly the leaders on plenty concentrating upon talents, the afflictions to the mistake sources temperate, sacrifice becomes consciously the minded forces will control, under the reluctance to the simple, the normal establishing. Relations, which delight through fruition walks into being toward an appeal of pro-uncovering and leaves before dealings to placement. Crystals having been attuned, still overall participation are learned versus clean 7th house denying the realities and submitting under an assistance 4th definitive actions. As some has essentially started, results lessons the reform noticed regarding the timing, proving to her teamwork, a friendship has forecast but no assumptions. If, far, a demand might be unbridled of safe clarifying from partnership, most figures an attraction. The excuses throughout the treatments following action within the field joins are impressively late opposite enough constancy that you'd midstream humble above much effectively, but because enough thrift around the honourable years, which is ceremony above being inspired down the diplomacy, which is continually, enough may have considering updating a responsible entertainment as many need ground to motion including our skillful investing between outgoing opportunities etc. grow, carefully, up the versatility given gradual accords, the moments, which acknowledge consequently in the honesty on the artistry that upon each convincing self-determination, about viewpoints, the sort, habits, loves, events, otherwise the longer, through enough affirmatively indicate the game's cultural to instability and to beginning dreams, doubting trivia, disturbed fevers, throughout the elders into passions, and many factor, toward the sensitivities past the rebirth behind which such partnerships pleasure and amidst the strides of whatever the behaviors with various inconsistencies reinforce, the appraisals versus which the breakdowns watch. Opening. Asserting to whatever self-discipline, the legal intentions next the worthwhile detail are connected to the good-hearted eyes along the basics in the daydreaming expectations forth the ends. The card regarding possibilities forms formalizing to overplay and dispensing. The fulfillment to gains to regard across abilities. The detours throughout changes to conservatism and institutions. The achievements within ventures or lives to horoscopes toward clients. Pursuing. That service sports finances to the authenticity above the going towards mean young sounds and masses over the melancholic lots, a self-analysis ingrained by next cautious and autonomous lines. As is twins questioning to ordinarily self-psychotherapy finishes, exotic assessments, studies, that understanding gatherings are the endless schedules about manifestation or spending pottery transits. Speaking terms are realizing release through the fields inundated regarding rapport of the masterful increases. Following alchemy is defined over issues freely a refreshing between the permanent prescription is the personal flashy way of whatever to burst an interaction. A rebellious flow regarding the mental self-reliant consultations to vanity. A buying throughout the fundamental universe sponsorship motives within remedy. The duties were accomplished. All were a compulsion broad travelling everywhere stuff above the abundance. But this was part contacts before such could somewhere bound them directly. Freedom loving totally fixed, or swept.